Stand up! New York Giant fans. Authentic brought the air horn, man. Always excited to have Authentic on the channel. Been a day one subscriber of mine for the most part. He always says I was at least part of the reason why I started a YouTube channel. Always supported me
Indeed.
from the very beginning. Love what he's doing over there on his channel. And yeah, man, reached out to you last minute. You said you wanted to pop on. Always more than welcome to come on the channel. And figured we'd talk about the game coming up tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me pull up, man. I'm pretty excited because I just did a video this morning, so everything's fresh on my mind right now, man. I'm excited about this game. I think the Giants definitely got a good shot, especially being that we kind of got this neutral home field advantage kind of thing going on here. So it's kind of like giving us a bit of a home game instead of an away game on the schedule. So I'll take it, man.
Yeah, the Giants, fortunately enough, going into the year, because obviously you play 17 games. We have 9 home games, really only 7 road games and 1 neutral field game. So things really worked out for us. And when you really look at it, we played 3 home games before this. This is a neutral game. And then we come back and we play home again. So hopefully the Giants can find a way to take advantage of this. Obviously, we knew before the year started this was going to be a tough game. I mean, we had this circled on the calendar. Aaron Rodgers. You always fear Aaron Rodgers. But we'll talk about some of the things in this stream, at least in my opinion. And I'm curious to see the chat's opinion, your opinion, and everybody else, where I think the Giants stand maybe a better chance than some people may think.
Yeah.
Not to say that I expect a win. I don't. We're playing a good, they're still a really good football team, but I definitely think it's a winnable game. I think I'm not going into this game saying to myself, there's no chance. We cannot win this football game. No, I don't feel that way.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it, man. You know, I came into the year and didn't really expect too much from this team, expecting about maybe 6 to 8 wins, maybe 9 wins, you know, as the ceiling and whatnot. And they've came out and they've surprised us, man. And since week 1, I went with my gut. I picked the Titans, man, and I just been picking us since. So, you know, I think that the Giants are probably like one of the biggest shocking teams of the year so far, man. And I'm going to ride the wave as long as we can, man. Even with this offense kind of struggling, it's still great to see us getting wins, man. We've had so many years now in a row. For me, at least, goes back to, you know, since I started on YouTube, we have not been a good team. So it's good to see us have a winning record and be above 500, you know, this early in the year.
Hey, man, 3-1. You got to enjoy it while you can. You know, I see a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of Giants fans on my channel, a lot of Giants fans on YouTube saying, what about the quarterback? What are we going to do in the draft next year? Blase, yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada. Authentic, we only get so many years on this earth. We only get so many years on this earth. When the team's 3-1, I ain't bothered with next year. I'm worried about this year. I'm worried about this team improving. Of course, in the back of my head, you're still always a little bit worried about next year and how you're going to build this team going forward. But with the way this team has played so far, 3-1, I don't care how ugly the wins may have been. I want this team to continue to build. I want this team to continue to get better week to week. And I'm really excited to see what game plan they come out with tomorrow. And we're going to talk about it. Some of the things that they could take advantage of. Let's talk. Let's say hello to a couple people in the chat. What's going on, Brandon, man? What's going on, Pete? What's going on, Roman? Thanks for popping in, buddy. What's going on? Yeah, we'll talk about the Mets tonight, Pete. I'm going to be streaming that game. But yeah, yesterday was definitely a letdown. What's going on, Big Dash? He's got a channel as well. Easy Lopez in the chat. What's going on, Dustin, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, buddy. Jai in the chat. She's an OG. She's always in the streams. Luke in the chat. Amazing guy in the chat. Before we dive into the matchup, Kevin Rosas, Lestat Walton. Just want to give a quick shout out to the official sponsor of the stream on the channel. Check him out. Prize Picks. I know Authentic does a lot of fantasy football content on his channel. Does a fantasy football specific show in which they talk about basically statistics, what players can do in a week in, week out basis. And that's what this app is. You can check them out. Go to Prize Picks, download the app. You put in the promo code Entertainer. You get 100% deposit bonus, meaning they match whatever you put in there if you're interested. So it's overs, unders. So for example, one of the over-unders this week is the rushing yards. And Authentic, I think you probably agree with me. Giants are going to try to run the hell out of football, much like we have the last couple of weeks. That's got to be the objective. I'm taking the over on Saquon Barkley at 77.5. And on the other side for Green Bay, I'm probably taking the over as well because they haven't been able to throw the ball too much. And if the Giants have had a weakness on this defense thus far, we haven't been the best against the run. Of course, Leonard Williams missed 2 games. We'll see how we hold up in that area. But I probably like both of them to go the over this week. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think both will go over. I mean, 77 for Saquon seems a little bit low. I had to go here and scroll some numbers. Lowest of the season, 72. So I think that gives you good odds if you take the over on that. And Aaron Jones coming off a big game last week. I know he had above 100 yards. He's got 2 100-yard games actually in his first 4 performances. So yeah, I'm taking over on both of those.
Yeah, and I think both teams are going to try to establish the ground game, and I think this is going to be an ugly game. We're going to get into the over-unders. We're going to get into the spread. Let's dive into that real quick before we talk about some of the weaknesses on both of these football teams. But the spread right now, they got the Packers at -7.5, or at least that's what it opened at, and maybe it's 8 now, maybe it's 7. I'm not 100% sure. The over-under is at 40.5. So Vegas is expecting a low-scoring game. They're expecting a sloppy, low-scoring game. and they like the Packers by about a touchdown. You figure 40 points, you're looking at like a 24-17 type game. That's what Vegas thinks going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that. I think it's going to be a pretty sloppy game, especially being on this neutral field. Last time we were in London, I can remember an Eli Manning game where the field was pretty sloppy, and Eli didn't have a good day. I was looking at some numbers. It was like 8 for 22 for like 50-something yards in that game. We still came out with the win, so I'm feeling a little bit optimistic, and that's normally not my style. But the Packers this year definitely kind of started off a little bit slow. I can remember last year they started off out the gate a couple 30-plus games, and this year they're kind of sitting around that mid-20 range. So Giants going to have to put up some points, but I'm looking at that defense most importantly.
The defense of the Giants, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. The defense in the running game, that's what's going to give the Giants an opportunity to win this game. And I talked about it briefly on Twitter today. So far, and granted, you can only factor in the opponents we've gone up against, but so far, the Giants have done a good job in the time of possession department. So have the Packers. I think they're like 6th. The Giants are 11th, but they've ranked no better than like 26th over the last 4 years. And a lot of that goes to the defense, definitely getting off the field on third downs. We'll pull up that stat as well, but I think they're 2nd in the National Football League in that department. And the fact we've been able to run the ball very effectively. Saquon Barkley is the most rushing yards in football. And the fact that Daniel Jones, that's a question mark going into this game, Authentic. If he cannot have the full capability of using his legs, that will hurt this offense. Well, hopefully he can, because right now when you look at this, and I know there's a lot of people that aren't the biggest Jones fans, but we don't have receivers. So right. The Giants' biggest weapon, especially with Galladay out, with Wandell out, with Tony out, is Daniel Jones' legs. Obviously, Barkley's 1. Jones' legs are 2. So hopefully Jones has the full capability of using those legs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important in this game. And, I mean, the way we've won games all year has been pretty ugly. But, you know, Daniel Jones has found a way to get a bunch of first downs with his legs. Saquon Barkley, I think, has a big part to do with that, too, because he's setting that up. A lot of teams are stacking the box. Even though I saw some numbers that Bobby had put up just a couple weeks ago about Saquon against stacked boxes, the numbers aren't that great, but it seems like as soon as defenses get out of that, then Saquon tends to break one. And you got to give Daniel Jones his props. I mean, I've been extremely critical about Daniel Jones on my channel, especially dating back to last year. But the way I'm seeing some improvements this year is the way that he runs the fakes, man, the way that he was successful with the boot last game and the way he's hiding the ball. You know, when you're underneath center, I saw a compilation that had Dan Orlovsky on it, and they were talking about this on the Get Up, like about how many more things you can do from under center rather than being in the shotgun. And we know with the Giants in the past, especially during that Ben McAdoo era, we were running a lot of shotgun run. And it's just very transparent when you run an offense like that. Ryan Clark was even talking about it from a safety perspective, that you can just see everything in front of you. You can even be late to get to the line and still be able to make a play. But Daniel Jones, with his back to the defense, I mean, he's been doing a fantastic job so far.
Yeah, he's always been good at that fake. I'll say that. You know, a lot of times with his big runs in the past, we've talked about it. He's not the most elusive guy, but he has sold the fake very well. That's what's opened up big lanes for that running game with the RPO. And yeah, I think most of the credit has to go to Saquon Barkley. He's the best weapon on this team. He might be the best weapon in football right now, the way the guy's playing. His yards after contact at the running back position, he's 4th in the league if you just look after the contact yards.
So I saw you post that stat the other day, and I was like, I got to borrow that nugget. That's a great nugget, man. Saquon, I'll give you another good one. He's got more rushing yards than 21 teams right now in the NFL. Yeah, so, I mean, the guy's going off, leads the league in scrimmage yards. Saquon is, but that's what a quarterback really needs, man. And Daniel Jones hasn't had that for the most part of his career.
He's never had Saquon Barkley. He's never had him with the real Saquon Barkley.
Right. It's great to have a good running game.
We didn't have the real Saquon Barkley last year.
We didn't.
The year before, he got hurt not even halfway through the second game. And the year before that, Jones' rookie year, he got hurt Jones' first start, and he wasn't himself until about the last 3 or 4 games of that season. So this is really the first year where Jones has had the true Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Now, if we could ever get some of these wide receivers back, maybe we could get a dose of what this offense could potentially look like. Of course, the pass protection's got to improve as well. I think that'll get better over the course of the year, especially as they have to start paying more attention to Barkley in the ground game. And like you said, if they start taking away the stack box, well, that's only going to allow Barkley to do better. I think if they continue to stack the box, Jones is going to try to take off and run with it more. So it's kind of pick your poison. But I'm excited to see. I do trust his coaching staff. I think they're going to get the most out of the players on this team on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And the one thing that surprises me about the passing game, although we have had a bunch of injuries at the wide receiver position and lack of production, is that the play action is not really kicking in quite yet. You know, I didn't expect this offense to be so stagnant in the passing game. before the injuries. And now, we're just looking for ways to be able to try to keep this offense moving. And thank God for Saquon, man, because he's a big pivotal piece in that of how everything else works. I think if we didn't have a running game, we really would have a non-existent offense probably right now.
Of course. He's the MVP of this football team. Him and Andrew Thomas on the offensive side.
Yeah.
Steve, man, thank you very much, man. Hey, man, go Giants. Enjoy your day. Steve, man, thank you so much, man. Enjoy your day, too. Let's jump further into this matchup. Let's talk about some of the stats that I wanted to pull up that I was going to show in my preview video. Didn't have time to do a preview video this week, so figured I would just do a live stream, hang out with you guys for a bit, and have a guest on. First, we're going to look at the Packers roster. And, authentic, when you look at the Packers roster this year, it's not the Packers roster of old, okay? They don't have Devontae Adams. They don't have that supreme threat in terms of the pass-catching game. And it's why this Packers offense has really relied a lot more on the run attack. They have 580 yards on the ground as a team, 327 for Jones, 211 for Dillon. And that's been the bread and butter of this offense. They don't have a receiver over 200 yards receiving. So it's kind of similar to the Giants offense, outside of the fact that Rodgers isn't the most mobile, but they have a second running back that gets a lot of the carries. So A.J. Dillon is kind of their Jones, and Aaron Jones kind of more of the Barkley role in this offense. But they've relied heavily on the ground attack. Alan Lazard is not going to scare me, right? Randall Cobb at this age is not going to really scare you. So I look at this game and I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy, authentic. I really don't think that this offense is that scary. I think we can hold up against them.
Yeah, I think we can hold up against them too. This is probably the most confident I've felt in the past couple of years going up against the Packers, man. They're usually a very tough matchup, especially when they had Devontae Adams over there. And, you see Aaron Rodgers still trying to build chemistry. And I know for a, an OG like Aaron Rodgers, been in the game for a minute, high-level player, to have, dealing with youth out there at the wide receiver position, I'm sure is difficult. You had Romeo Doubs with that drop early in that first game. Big, it was like one of the first passes of the first possession. He drops like a 40-yard bomb, and Aaron Rodgers kind of giving him that side eye, like, come on, bro. But, I definitely think we got a shot, man. For me, it's like, I like to know the task at hand. It's why I felt really good going up against the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. It was, stop the run. And I think in this game, with the wide receivers kind of being a little bit lackluster in Green Bay, we know what we got to do. Defensively, we got to go out there. We got to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and you got to go out there and stop the run. A.J. Dillon is, you either got a two-headed monster like that or you got one guy like Saquon Barkley. It's pick your poison for me. For me, I kind of like the flashy superstar in the running back, so I'll take Saquon Barkley all day. But they do have two great running backs over there, A.J. Dillon being a young guy on the come up, and Jones been doing it for years. I want to say Jones was averaging like 7 yards per carry last game. So we definitely got a task at hand, but I like that we know the task.
Yeah, and the good news is hopefully we're going to have Leonard Williams back in the lineup, and that's going to go a long way. And I think the key on defense this week, and we're going to get into the injury report if he does play, him and Dex got to step up. We know Aaron Rodgers. This isn't Baker Mayfield. This isn't Justin Fields. This isn't, we faced a lot of young, inexperienced quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks in new schemes early on this year, right? This is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy, if you send the house, if you blitz 46, 47% of the time, the way in which Wink has been doing it thus far, and I'm not saying that Wink needs to ease up. He still needs to be aggressive to generate some pressure, but the Giants have to do it in a smart way going up against Aaron Rodgers, because if you just blindly blitz against this guy, he's going to tear you to shreds, which is why Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence are going to be they're by far, in my opinion, the biggest factor in this game from the defensive side. They have got to find a way to get interior pressure, make it uncomfortable for Rodgers, make him get the ball out quicker than he wants to. We know he doesn't have the greatest wide receivers in terms of creating separation. So Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence have to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, and Dexter Lawrence coming off a huge game. 2 sacks last week. I think he had 8 pressures. Dexter Lawrence is playing way, way, way high.
And that was without Leo in the lineup.
Right. So now that you get Leo back in the lineup, I think that, or pending, he gets back in the lineup, that should definitely cause some pressure up front. But the one thing about Aaron Rodgers getting rid of the ball quickly, the best thing to help out an offensive line is a decisive quarterback. And we know Aaron Rodgers can be that. It's just if he's going to have the chemistry with the wide receivers to be able to get rid of that ball quick. I hope we don't end up in a situation where Aaron Rodgers is doing 3-step drops, getting rid of that ball fast, and we can't get a hand on him, and he's finding ways to complete passes. So, we'll see. I know once I see the first quarter in the trenches, I'll probably have a great idea how that game's going to go.
Yeah, we'll see. I see a lot of people asking about Leonard Williams. It's not official yet, but it's trending that there's a good chance he's going to play. We'll see. We'll see tomorrow, but there's a good chance he's going to play. Just going to get to a member chat real quick, and then we'll go along with a lot of the other points. Pistol Pete, Tana, you streaming the Knicks this season? Yes. Not going to stream the preseason games because I've got a job. I work 9 to 5. I do the Giants, mixing the Mets when I can. So not going to do the preseason, but yes, I'm going to try to do as many Knicks games as I can, and looking forward to calling those games this year. They look good so far. This preseason bench is better than ever. Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to catch a little bit of the first preseason game, and the guy I was really looking at was Brunson, and he got off to a really good start. And I'm excited to see what he can do in a Knicks uniform this year because we haven't had a point guard in forever. Scoop, man, he says, how do you feel about Landon coming home, playing with linebacker with Ojulari and Tibbs? Yeah, Ojulari is going to be out for this game. Thibodeau's playing. As far as Landon goes, I'm excited. I mean, listen, I was not a big proponent of bringing Landon Collins back the first time around, but it had nothing to do with Landon Collins, the player, and everything to do with the salary that I knew that he was going to command. And it's why things did not work out with Washington. He was cut from Washington, not because he's a horrible player, because he was not worth that money. Let's be honest with ourselves. But I think we have a coaching staff, Authentic, that we've seen it now with players on this defense, whether it be O'Shane Zimenez, whether it be Ward, whether it be Dexter Lawrence. They know how to put their defensive players in the best position possible to succeed. And I think now they get a guy like Landon Collins. We all know he's a good down ball defender. I think he's a guy that fits the scheme very well, as a guy that could kind of blitz up the gap up the middle. And I'm not saying he's going to have like a huge role in this defense. He might not even start, but I think he's going to be in certain packages. And I don't think we would have signed him if we didn't feel he could contribute to a defense that's already been doing a really good job.
Yeah, I'm super hype about Landon Collins coming back, and I think everything you said there is spot on. It was a money issue at first. Washington paid him a way egregious bag that he probably wasn't worth at the time. He went out here. I'm actually in D.C. for those that don't know. And, they tried to kind of morph him into a linebacker, and he really wasn't cool with that. And one thing that stood out to me when I just saw Wink Martindale's last press conference, they asked him about that. They said, Landon Collins had some issues with going to the linebacker. And this is what I really like about Wink. He's really like a player's kind of coach. And he said, we're going to find a place that he's comfortable with, that he likes to play, and we're going to be able to implement him in this defense a certain way and utilize him in certain packages. So he also called our defense a positionless defense. And that's what I like to hear, man. I think with Landon Collins, a big point here is that he's going to be coming in here to step up and try to stop the run. The Giants' rush defense has not been that great so far this year. A lot of that has to do with Leonard Williams going out. Third quarter against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys gashed us, man. I mean, they ran a lot of outside zone against us, and I thought that would be the thing that would really kill the Giants in that game. And, I mean, we really couldn't stop the run. I want to say both backs were around
Actually, I don't mean to correct you. He actually went out against the Panthers in the third quarter. He didn't play.
Panthers in the third, but he didn't play against Dallas. So,
yeah.
You start to see that run kind of gashing us a little bit. And now you got Julian Love out with the concussion, so I think that it shows that if you don't have the depth pieces behind the players, one position will suffer, and then when you bring in depth, that could also make another position suffer. It's all connected. So I think Landon Collins, we could see him in that cat back kind of money backer position, maybe helping out with the safety vibes, and maybe allowing a guy like Xavier McKinney to kind of roam the field a little bit more. And we know Wink likes to blitz X off the edge a little bit. He did that late in a couple games already, so I'm looking forward to it.
He's been blitzing all the DBs. Darnay Holmes, he's been using as a blitzer. Love, he's been using as a blitzer. So they're going to have a defined role for this guy. And Peppers just seems like he's super excited to be back as a New York Giant. And I'm happy. Yeah.
Collins. Same number, right?
But I'm happy, man. I'm happy. I'm really excited
me too.
to be back. And I'm really excited to see if he could have an impact on the field. Hopefully next week. I don't think he's going to play this week, but you also look at playing next week with Lamar Jackson. You talked about how he's going to help with the run defense. Well, you're going to need it against Baltimore. So
that's a game I'm worried about. The
that
Packers game, I'm kind of like, and we could take an L, and I wouldn't even be that distraught. But taking that L and then going to take on the Ravens, whew.
Yeah, listen, man, and we'll talk about the Ravens next week, and it's definitely going to be a challenge. But listen, if they lose tomorrow, they lose tomorrow. I'm not going in expecting a win, but I'm going in expecting a hard-fought football game where I think we're going to at least have an opportunity to win. I think it's a game going in where if we could limit mistakes, if we don't beat ourselves, we don't commit a lot of penalties, we don't have silly fumbles, we don't kill ourselves in special teams in terms of coverage, I think there's a chance we could win this football game. The game going up against Baltimore, there's going to be challenges, not just with what Baltimore brings to the table offensively with Jackson, but the fact you're traveling back from London. That has to play a factor as well. We'll worry about that next week. The one good thing about that game from a defensive standpoint, nobody knows him better than Wink. So, Wink went up practice, right, for 4 straight years as the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. So that'll be really, in my opinion, the biggest storyline going into that game is how the Giants defensively prepare for that offense. E. York says, I want the Giants to sign DJ to a 2-year deal, similar to what the Saints did for Jameis Winston, then use all their draft picks over the next few years to build up the team. Jones is very good. I mean, listen, all right, we're both going to give our opinions on this. My opinion is going to continue to be the same as what it's been on Jones. I'm going to be a guy that's going to continue to see all the different possibilities. I'm not going to be locked in to one decision right now, because until such time I see how this team plays out throughout the rest of the year, where we're picking in the draft, what our opportunities are in the draft to take a potential quarterback, and I have to see how Daniel Jones hopefully progresses this year, how the offensive line improves. Hopefully we get some weapons back and we get to truly see what he could be when we start to open up this offense a bit. I think it's too soon to go either avenue for me right now. I'm not going to go down the route no matter what. I don't think Jones could do anything this year where I'm going to say we have to give this guy a 4 or 5 year extension. Is there a possibility where this team wins 9 or 10 games as they get progressively better over the course of the year, where I'd be completely open to doing what you just said? Yes. If we're picking if we're picking in that 20 range, make the playoffs, Jones gets better, and you say to yourself, let's improve the other surrounding parts in this roster. Let's get a legitimate number one. And if it doesn't work out for Jones, it'll work out for the next quarterback that comes in. Because right now, the way that these weapons are set up, authentic, we draft a rookie quarterback, especially for everybody saying trade Saquon, don't bring back Saquon. That rookie quarterback his first year, he's going to be locked up, hands behind his back. He's going to have cement shoes on, and he's going to be thrown in the Hudson River because he's not going to have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear you on that. It's tough because the transition is going to be very difficult if the New York Giants win a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
And I think if they do win a lot of games, you got to find a way to probably bring back Daniel Jones, because what are you going to do? Just pull his legs out from underneath him and bring in a rookie? And pending that, now maybe take a team that was let's say a 7 to 10 win team, to then decreasing and having to deal with a rookie quarterback who's probably going to end up struggling, and you're going to lose a lot more games. So for me, I got to watch the rest of the season play out. Daniel Jones really hasn't been given that major opportunity this year to really show out that he can pass within this offense. I mean, wide receivers have been hurt, left and right. And it's unfortunate because I really wanted to see it. I don't want to have the same excuse at the end of the year like, oh, man, there was too many injuries, offensive line, whatever. I want it to be where we can at least see a window for Daniel Jones to have that opportunity to be able to show that he can lead, a vertical offense, because I think just running the ball is not going to be enough to keep Daniel Jones around here too long. You got games like last week against the Bears, 71 yards. I'm glad we got the win, but there's a part of me that feels for Daniel Jones where I'm like, damn, can we open up the offense just a little bit, just to kind of showcase his skills? But we all know the winning is more important than any of that. So at the end of the day, if it has to continue to go like this and look ugly until we get to the end of the year, I think the Giants are going to have a serious decision on their hands that, I don't get paid those bucks to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the game plan last week, it evolved as the game developed. I think they saw that the Bears were constantly stacking the box. They rolled Daniel Jones out with the bootleg rollouts. I think there were passing options off of that, but he had a wide open field. That's what a smart quarterback does. You had the opportunity to run. He took off, ran with it. He took advantage of the defense overcommitting to Saquon Barkley. He took what was there. And then, he had some drops too. Darius Slayton dropped the ball. There was a couple other drops throughout the game. I understand the throw was a little bit underthrown. It hits both of his hands. He's got to catch the ball.
Yeah. Tanner had that drop too on the sidelines.
And he didn't play the whole fourth quarter. So those 71 passing yards, have a couple of guys hold on the balls, looks more like 180, 200 if he plays all four quarters. Yeah. He has close to 100 yards on the ground. Let's give this guy an opportunity this year. That's just my mindset on it. We got another 13 games. Let's hope some of these weapons could get back, and we'll see what this offense could evolve into over the course of the year. I see potential. That's what I'm going to say. I see potential with the way that Saquon Barkley is playing right now, because if he's going to continue to command attention and you get some of these receivers back, and Jones is a threat in the running game, maybe you trade for a young wide receiver. I don't know what they're going to do, but if they could get a legitimate, I don't even need a number one. Give me a legitimate number two and maybe a legitimate number three.
Just some wide receivers he can build some chemistry with. It's like, I like what's going on with Richie James, and if you had a couple other guys like that, they might be able to move the ball and get some vertical, type of style passes going and whatnot. But I will say this, I feel better right now than I felt last year when the season was over about Daniel Jones moving forward. And possibly a franchise tag, or, like the homie said in the super chat, a 2-year deal, something like Jameis. Jameis wasn't even getting paid that much. So, I mean, I would totally
I think he got 15 a year, 2 years, 30 million.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, that's basically a franchise tag for two. No, that's less than. What am I saying? That's half.
Yeah, it'd be less than a franchise, yeah.
Half of a franchise tag. Ayub, man, thank you very much. We couldn't hold up against the rush. Stop it, entertainer. Okay.
Or is he saying against the rush, or is he talking about Cooper Rush?
I'm assuming he means against the rush. We'll see tomorrow. I mean, we'll see tomorrow how we hold up. Hopefully Leonard Williams is back. That could make a difference. But yeah, I don't think we're going to hold them to 50 yards on the ground. They're going to run the ball. Yeah. They're going to run the ball. But I think we're going to be able to run the ball too. I mean, you're talking about a team that gave up 180 yards to the Chicago Bears on the ground. You're telling me they thought Justin Fields was going to throw all over them? You're talking about a team that gave up 170 yards rushing to Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots. You're telling me they thought they were going to throw all over them? They knew what they were going to do. They still were able to run the ball. So I've seen this Giants team be able to run the ball. Saquon Barkley to me looks like the best running back in football. Our run blocking has been solid thus far this year.
Extremely solid.
It's been the pass protection. It's been horrible.
Yeah.
But we can run on them just as well as they can run on us. So I agree. I don't think we're going to completely lock them down in terms of run defense. But if we're going to have a chance to win, Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence are going to have to do a good job in the middle.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get out to an early lead in this game. That way you can force them to kind of try to abandon the run early, and it'll make for a more predictable game plan. You have to just stop the pass for the rest of the game for real.
For real. Big Moose says, do you think the defense can keep us in the game? Yes, I do. I don't think this Packers offense is super explosive. Now, maybe I'll be wrong. You get proven all the wrong. The NFL is a week-to-week sport. Teams evolve. Teams get better. Teams get worse over the course of the season. But the Packers offense I've seen so far this year does not – I'm not shaking in my boots. Do I think they could put up 20, 24 points? Yeah. But I don't think we're going to go out there and get completely destroyed. No, I do not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the one thing is, like, I just hope that this isn't that game where the defense completely folds. And you get that out of defenses, especially a defense like this who's playing pretty decent. You can get that out of a defense a few games here or there. And the Dallas Cowboys showed the formula of how to beat the Giants. If you get rid of that ball quick, then you can keep that passing attack going. And it's also going to be relying upon having the running game just getting you positive yards so you're in, like, second and third downs that are manageable, which, it won't allow Wink to be able to dial up that blitz the way we know it can work.
Yeah, and speaking of third down, that to me is a huge key statistical talking point going into this game. You have the two best third down defenses, at least going into this game in the National Football League. And, of course, schedules play at least a part of that. But the Giants right now are only giving up a third down 29.4% of the time. The Packers are the only team that's doing it better at 23.81% of the time. So both of these teams have been tremendous in that area, getting off the field, and it's why the Giants are 11th in time of possession. It's why the Packers are like 5th, because they've both done a great job in that area. And I think whoever is cleaner in that department is probably going to win this football game. Who does a better job on offense of converting on third down? The other thing in this game, Authentic, knowing that you're going up against a team that's better, there's a reason the Packers are a 7.5-point favorite. I expect the Giants, within reason, I don't want you going for it on 4th and 1 at your own 30, but I expect the Giants at midfield, if it's a 4th and short, you have to try to continue to possess the ball. They have to go for it and pick those 4th and shorts up.
Yeah, that's important to set that pace early, man. And, yeah, third down is going to be super important in this game. It's interesting because, there's a couple third downs that stand out for me. And I can't remember who it was on a 3rd and 20 that ran a screen play against us.
Yeah, 3rd and 20 was last week. We gave up the oh, man, why does it escape me? Right? We had Zeke gash us on a 3rd and 12 on a run the week before against the Dallas Cowboys. And then we had the all-out blitz last week against the Bears.
It was a screenplay, I remember. And I'm just looking at it like, I just hope Wink has that good balance. He learned later on in that game that if you got 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12 plus.
Somebody said in the chat it was Herbert.
It was Herbert. Yeah, so you got to find a way to just, like, balance your aggression. I think that's very important of getting off the field on third down for Wink. And he's done a pretty good job of it. There's just been a few moments, and I think the Dallas one was the other one that was on the tip of my tongue as well, too. But for me, it's just like, balance your aggression, find a way to get to the quarterback, but also on obvious downs, don't make the big mistake. That's very important. And I also think this Giants defense is going to have to force a turnover. We're coming into this game with 0 interceptions. It's the only team in the NFL that doesn't have an interception yet. Yeah,
we've recovered a ton of fumbles, but like you said, no interceptions. It's going to be tough to do it against Aaron Rodgers. We all know that Rodgers doesn't. I think he's had like a combined 15 interceptions over his last 2 years. Yeah. So it's not going to be easy to get some interceptions. But
he gave the Patriots one last week, so I think he's going to be on. He's going to be on guard this week.
Hopefully. But regardless, even if we don't get an interception, have to find a way to get off the field on third down. We can't give them free yardage. Can't jump off sides. Can't get and that's a big thing you got to worry about with Aaron Rodgers, because there is nobody, in my opinion, in the history of football since I've been watching the sport, that is better at creating the offsides and getting that free play and trying to throw that 50-yard bomb down the sideline.
Yeah, Wink talked about that in the press conference too. He said they're doing extra practices when trying to learn the cadences and whatnot. And I know Russell Wilson was high on that list too a while ago. He's been trying it over there in Denver. It hasn't been working this year though. Yeah, but we'll see, man. Hopefully they play some disciplined football up front. That's going to be important. You can't give away yards
for sure. And John says Saquon needs to break Adrian Peterson's record to win this game. He's going to have to have a big game. He's going to have a big game. I don't know if he's got to do that, but he's got to have a big game. By the way, if one of my mods could drop Authentic's channel in the chat, I always ask you guys to do that if you can. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for all the support you guys always show. He's got a great channel. Definitely check him out. He's always doing live streams. Like he told me, I think before the stream, he's working on video content more so this year too. So definitely check out his channel. They got a great thing going on over there. But and I think Dire Giants fan just posted it, so check them out. Steve says we absolutely have to blitz Rodgers, live or die by it. We do, but we got to be smart about it. We can't. 3rd and 20, we're not blitzing this week. Not doing it. 3rd and 12, you're not doing it. You can't. He will tear you to shreds. But yes, that's in the nature of this defense. Wink can't completely get away from what he's been doing. So, you talk about the fact that they don't have the best chemistry, right? Between the new wide receivers and Rodgers. They're not completely in sync. What disrupts that? Yeah. Coming up with unpredictable blitzes, creating pressure while still maintaining decent coverage or at least creating deception. So, yes, they need to blitz, but they can't be gung-ho about it.
Yeah, that's true. And if you blitz, you're going to set up some one-on-one matchups. And the one-on-one matchup that I don't want to see is Romeo Doubs out there. He's very fast. He can definitely make the big play. I think he's that sleeper that we got to watch out for. As far as possession stuff goes, you got Randall Cobb out there doing some stuff. And they are limited at the wide receiver position. But it almost reminds me of us, the way we used Darius Slayton back in like 2019, just like fly routes, big time, down the field type of throws and whatnot. So you got to keep your eyes on Romeo Doubs, especially when you send in the house.
Yeah, for sure. And their offense is very similar to ours right now. It really is in terms of their lack of weaponry. And you even see it with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, one of the 5 best quarterbacks who's ever put on a pair of cleats. Even he's not airing the football out right now, and they're focusing more on the ground game because right now, as they're developing chemistry, they know the strength of their offense.
Yeah.
Chris says, "Subtain and authentic. Can we give Jamie Gillen his props so far? He's the best punter in a Giants uniform since a certain muscular punter." Yeah, well, yeah. Chris works out with Steve Weatherford. As far as Gillen go, here's what I'll say about Gillen. He's definitely got a big leg.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of booming punts where I've seen him at least struggle a bit. And maybe some of this falls on punt coverage as well. He has not been, at least up to this point, at least in my opinion, the best in terms of pinning the opposition inside like the 6 or 7 yard line. He's got to get better with his angling with the punts, but in terms of just his leg strength, yeah, he's been good.
Yeah, he has, and you saw against the Dallas Cowboys when Turpin almost took that one back to the house. He can tackle too, so I like that. If he last line of defense, he could definitely make the hit.
Yeah, but he's definitely got a strong leg. But like Amazing Guy says, not a lot of control. He's at least so far, he hasn't been great in terms of pinning them deep inside the 5 yard line. Got to get better in that area.
Yeah.
Couple of other things I want to go over. The injury report, I think that's probably the most important thing going into this game. Just seeing who's probably going to play and who's not. Cordell Flood is out. Kenny Golladay is out. Richard James, he's playing. He was a full participant on Friday. Julian Love looks like he's going to play. He was a full participant on Friday, so at least from the sounds of that, which is great. His game status, it doesn't even have anything, so it sounds like he's going to play. Azeez Ojulari is out. Tyrod Taylor is out due to the concussion. Jones is a full go. That was a huge question mark. We'll talk more about that, but he's playing. Nick McLeod looks like he's going to play. Moreau, who was tremendous last game when he got the opportunity to step in, obviously at the cornerback spot, did a great job. He's a full go. He's going to start this week. Evan Neal, full go, was kind of questionable going into the week. Wandell out. Kadarius Toney out. As of now, Leonard Williams still questionable. He's been a limited participant the last 3 games, but it's at least seems increasingly likely that he may suit up. For the Packers, Alexander's going to go. He was at least somewhat questionable going into the week. Adrian Amos right now is a limited participant. He's questionable. Bakatari did not participate on Friday. I don't know the reason behind that, but his game status is not even listed as questionable, so I'm assuming he's going to play. Jenkins is going to play, a limited participant, so we'll see. Alan Lazard, limited participant. So it looks like we have a few more guys that may not play in this game, but hopefully Leonard Williams is a full go. And it looks like Daniel Jones obviously is going to be playing as well.
Yeah, we definitely going to need Daniel out there. And the one thing that worries me about that is if Daniel Jones is hobbling or, he looks ineffective or maybe takes a hit that tweaks the ankle a little bit. I know that Davis Webb looked great in the preseason and whatnot, but I think a little bit of that is smoke and mirrors, and I don't want to rely on Davis Webb to go out here and try and win this game. So I think it's important that Daniel Jones stays healthy, not only coming into this game healthy, but that he stays healthy during the game. It's unfortunate that Tyrod's not going to be out there, and I think that the Giants are probably looking at that Tyrod signing a little bit questionable now because he seems like every time he gets, into the flow of the game, injury, seems to come his way. So it's definitely going to be important to have him because we know what it's like from last year when we had to have a backup quarterback out there with Glennon and Fromm. I mean, it just got pathetic.
Oh, don't even want to think about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, Taylor, hopefully he's back. I think he'll be back next week because it was a
Yeah.
concussion. I had a good feeling he wasn't it was good, but I had a feeling that he probably was not going to play this week, especially after what happened in 2 of the previous week.
Yeah.
2 of the teams were going to be really strict, especially at the quarterback position with concussions. So I knew he wasn't going to play this week, but I think he'll be back the following week. But he's the clear backup at this point. But he's a
There's
much
something
better.
with the injuries now that, like, this coaching staff and this front office, they make me feel a lot more comfortable about the injuries. I mean, last year, if we would have had to, field some of these players, it would have been awful, and we would have been losing some of these tight games. And Brian Dable and, company have found a way to just win these tight, close games. And it's not pretty, but we're getting the W's, and I think that's very important.
Yeah, for sure. And Katrick, man, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate it with the smiley face. Listen, that comes down to coaching. And that's why every week, for the most part, regardless of who we're playing, listen, if we go up against the Chiefs the way they're playing right now and a handful of teams, yeah, I'm going to go into that game thinking snowball's chance in hell. But for the most part, almost every team on our schedule this year, I think we at least have a decent chance to have a chance from within that game to win the football game. And that's because of the coaching. I have confidence in this coaching staff, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball, that they're going to get the most out of the talent they're provided with on this football team.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that thus far, right? I even said it after week 1 or week 2. I think it was week 2 where people were saying that Jones missed a lot of reads, and he did. New offense, definitely missed a lot of reads, which gives me more confidence, by the way, once we start to get some of these weapons back, because we saw guys running wide open on a lot of these routes, and you factor in how effective Saquon Barkley's been. But that goes to the coaching. Guys were not running that wide open under Jason Garrett. So I have confidence that they know what they're doing. They know how to put this team in the best situation to succeed on both sides of the ball. And that's a great sign for the future of this team, not just for this year. Coaching in the NFL, I think, is the most important thing, even more so important than the talent of the players on your team. You look at the New England Patriots for years. I think we could both agree, and they had talent. I'm not saying they didn't have talent, but I think we could both agree they were not the most talented team. And that team found ways to win more often than not each and every week because of the coaching.
Yeah, coaching is extremely important. And with this team, it's normally the opposite where you see a quarterback is an extension of the coach. You saw that a lot with Peyton Manning in his great years with the Colts and whatnot. But this seems to be a little bit of the opposite. It seems like Brian Dable is now an extension of Daniel Jones. And late in games, especially when you would see, I can remember last year, man, against the Atlanta Falcons and the Denver Broncos early on in the year, we'd get down to like trying to tie the game, and we wouldn't even get the opportunity to do it because of a penalty late in the game. I can remember a Nate Solder hold against Atlanta, and I forget the penalty against the Broncos, but that set us back to like 2nd and long, 3rd and long. And you're seeing a lot less of that this year underneath this coaching staff, a lot more discipline up front. And even though we don't necessarily have the talent, we're at least not shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're giving ourselves that opportunity to win games.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to the coaching. Jeremiah's a big Eagles fan. He says, I miss Judge and Gettleman. Yeah,
we don't.
Jeremiah, I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans miss Judge and Gettleman. Listen, I'll give Gettleman some props. A lot of the guys, this team is still Gettleman's team for the most part. I mean, these are all his guys, and those guys are starting to play well. Andrew Thomas is taking it to another level. Saquon Barkley is playing out of his mind. Leonard Williams, really good. Dexter Lawrence is taking it to another level. Yep. So I'll give him props for some of his draft picks, but overall, complete failure. His free agency is the major reason why we're in the position we're in. So I'm glad we moved on. I hope that Shane could take some of these pieces that he left behind, the Andrew Thomases, the Evan Neal, because he traded back and gave him that pick. The Evan Neal, the Andrew Thomas, the Saquon Barkley, the Xavier McKinney, the Leonard Williams, the Dexter Lawrence. I hope he could take some of these pieces and help build with the guys that he's going to be bringing in. And that's what I think Shane will be able to do. And I look forward to seeing the future of this football team because I think they have some core pieces in place. And I think they have a smart GM that knows not to overspend in free agency, that knows to build this team through the draft, that believes in positional value. And I think he's going to get this team going down the right path.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the contracts were a bit horrendous under Gettleman, but you're right. He definitely had a decent eye for talent, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, his contracts only got worse because of what we did last year. Like, you look at the 2020 free agency, and I even said I actually like those contracts. Initially, the 3-year Bradbury contract with the ability to get after 2, the Blake Martinez, same thing. The initial Logan Ryan contract was only a 1-year deal. But what he did when he went on a spending spree, bringing in Golladay, bringing in Adoree Jackson, which at the time we'd be lying if we said we weren't excited because we were saying to ourselves, all right, at least we have expectations this year. But by doing that, he had to backload the Bradbury contract. He had to backload the Martinez contract. So it made those contracts worse. It made the contracts that were already on the team much worse and the incoming contracts much worse. So last year, they went for a big swing, and it was a complete disaster. Why we were handcuffed this year in terms of being able to spend and why we lost guys like James Bradbury.
Yeah, you can't forget the Golden Tate contract and the trading of Odell Beckham to then bring in Galladay to kind of pay him the same kind of money. It's just all didn't really make no sense. And leaving your quarterback out there to hang. I mean, for a while there, wasn't drafted, no talent on the offensive side of the ball for the first couple years, outside of Darius Slayton in the 5th round. And then finally you go out there and you get Kadarius Toney, and that seems to have not worked out just simply because of injuries so far. But I mean, we'll see. I think he left us in a pretty terrible shape, but it's nothing that we can't climb out of.
Yeah, I think that there's at least building blocks. And if Shane's a good GM, we could build this thing real quick. You know, because we have probably the best left tackle in football right now. And that might be, in my opinion, it's the second most important position, if not the third. We might have the best, and he's young. He's going to be here for a long time. You hope that Evan Neal could develop into a great right tackle. And suddenly you're like, okay, we're a couple of pieces away from having a really good offense because we know we got a good coach in place. And we have some really good pieces on the defense. I don't think we're as far away as some may think.
Yeah.
Big Moose says coaching staff has amazing ability to adjust weekly. You saw it week 1 at halftime. The offense, tremendous adjustments at halftime.
And that's what I was going to say. The adjustments, not necessarily just weekly or even just at the half. I mean, the in-game adjustments, first quarter adjustments. You talked about last week against the Bears, realizing you can't throw. It reminded me of the Raiders game in 2021 because we had that opening drive where we threw the touchdown to Evan Ingram on the fade route. And to me, it was Garrett's best game plan that he ever had, or in-game adjustment, where we just literally went straight to the run after that. And Daniel Jones only threw for like 100 yards, but at the end of the day, you get the W, you control the clock, you run the ball, you keep possession, and you end up getting the W. So for me, I'll take it like that all day. Like if you can get wins like that, and those second half adjustments and those quarter adjustments, they're extremely important.
What do we care, man? It's about maximizing the talent on your roster and coming up with the best game plan based on the opponent you're going up against. And last week, they saw that the defense was overcommitting to Saquon Barkley, and they took advantage of it with those bootleg rollouts with Daniel Jones, and Jones gashed him on the ground. So we'll see what they do this week. I think a major question mark for me in this game going in is Jones capable of running? Yeah. Can you use him in the same fashion in which you did last week? Because if you can't, that obviously changes things in terms of the offensive game plan.
Yeah, and they're going to be looking for it. I wonder how much, man-to-man they're going to rely on. Are they going to try and just stack the box and try to stop Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley from running the rock, try to force us to pass the ball? And I think that's the adjustment that's going to be the one to keep your eye on and see what Brian Daboll ends up doing if that is the case. If they say, hey, you're not going to beat us on this run, well, how are we going to use Daniel Jones and his arm to win this game?
Hey, man, and what I will say, if they continue to have success using Jones's legs, it's only going to help the passing game somewhat because, like you said, it brings added attention to his ability to roll out. So hopefully one helps the other. I think Barkley has obviously helped Jones's running ability. Now, hopefully, if they continue to have success with Jones running the ball, it'll help Barkley a little bit more. It'll take a little pressure off him. It'll give the offense a more complete offense. We know we're not near complete, but as Jones has, continued success, hopefully with the legs, it'll help the passing game. It'll help Barkley more so in the running game. And the coaching staff has to find a good way to balance it all out.
Yeah.
Thomas says, do we know what was Lemieux's injury? It seemed like after he was seen in that boot, no more info was given besides saying he was on the IR. I haven't gotten much. I'll look it up right now. I haven't heard much about Lemieux in terms of his injury update thus far. He had a, let's see. He was placed on the injury reserve on September 2nd. I don't even remember what the injury was, to be honest with you. I'm looking at it right now.
I thought maybe a leg injury. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was a leg injury. I'm trying to get the specifics. Won't be able to depend on starting left guard Shane Lemieux in the first month of the season. In some disappointing news, it was announced on Wednesday that Lemieux was one of the handful of players placed on injury reserve. With this, Lemieux will officially miss the knee injury. It was a knee injury.
It was a knee. Okay.
Yeah, knee injury. Yeah. He underwent surgery, and just like that, his fall was a knee injury. So I don't know. I don't know when he's going to be back. But Tom, it's a knee injury on Shane Lemieux. I knew it was a lower.
That would definitely help our offensive line out a lot, man. And he seems like he could be a good piece. Just been banged up, pretty much his whole tenure here with us. I'm looking forward to seeing him get back. Him and Nick Gates, man. I'm rooting for both of them.
Anything's better than Ben Bredesen.
Yeah, he struggled.
He's not.
And
good.
I will say on the other side, they've been kind of getting it together. With Glowinski and Feliciano.
Looked better last week.
Yeah, they looked a lot better. I saw a play that Brian Daboll broke down on the Giants YouTube. And they seem to be building some chemistry over there. So I mean, really, the offensive line has improved, and like you talked about earlier, in the running game, tremendously have improved. It's just about getting that pass blocking down now.
Yeah, and I think they will. I just think it takes some time. And I'm hoping we see more and more of Azudu as the year goes along, because obviously I think that's the game plan. I think they want to see if he could be the long-term starter.
Yeah.
Dan says, only way we win is we get up early, control the clock, and get after Rodgers. Go G-Men. I'm excited to be drunk at 10 a.m. Hey, man.
I was thinking about that.
Hey, man, it's 12 o'clock somewhere. If it's 12, listen, this is my rule, Authentic. If it's 12 o'clock where they're playing the game, you could drink while you're watching.
I like that. That's a good balance. It's a good balance.
Right? Because it's 2 o'clock there. So if they're drinking at the stadium, you could drink at home.
Yeah, I like that. I've had some games here, 1 o'clock, New York come down here to play, Washington and FedEx, man. 9 o'clock, we having breakfast, drinking beers and all that. So we get into it.
Kegs and eggs.
You know it.
All right. Sniper says, what is the number one thing to look for in the draft? Too early to tell. Too early to tell. And I know this is going to be the number one question, and people give it to me every single week. I could tell you where I could predict, but right now it's too early to tell. I mean, well, let's exclude the quarterback, because a lot of people are going to say quarterback. I don't know where we're picking. I don't know what Jones is going to play. So let's take the quarterback out of the evaluation. For me right now, it's wide receiver, it's linebacker, it's cornerback. Wide receiver and cornerback are my top two. Linebackers 3 probably. Continued focus on the offensive line. Actually, let me scale that back. Interior offensive line's got to be in my top 2 or 3 as well. I'd say the top 3 are on offense, and because I'm not saying we don't. I'm sorry, cornerback in there as well. Wide receiver, cornerback, interior offensive line. Those 3. But you have to get this offense situated, if not for Jones, for the future of the position at the quarterback. So they really need to hit home with those positions. But it's all going to depend on where we're picking in the draft, how these prospects develop. But wide receiver for sure, and center for sure, like interior offensive line, center specifically for sure.
It's crazy that we are going to have to, spend some draft capital on wide receiver again. It kind of looked like we were starting to iron that out a little bit, but I agree with you. I think wide receiver, second for me would probably be linebacker. We definitely struggle. We got guys out there that are depth pieces, I feel like, in the starting lineup. So wouldn't hurt to bring in some guys. But also you got to think Beaver's coming back probably next year. That'll probably help us out a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think most Giant fans agree. Wide receiver, corner, linebacker, center, guard. That's what we're looking at going into the draft next year. Where we're strong, defensive line. I mean, we could probably use some more young talent there, but not in the first couple of rounds. But could use some good young interior defensive line help for sure. But defensive line, we're strong. The edge, we hope we're set for a couple of years. Tackle, we hope we're set for a couple of years. So I think those are the positions we're looking at. Maybe in the back end of running back, but we'll see. Eddie, man, thank you very much, man. How's the anxiety with the Mets, Chris? Listen, Eddie, I halfway expected to lose last night. I didn't think Max was going to lay up a stinker that much. But listen, at the end of the day, got to find a way to win tonight. It's do or die. Jake has to give us an opportunity in a win or go home situation tomorrow. So we'll see how DeGrom pitches today. But yeah, Max laid a stinker. The offense didn't get the job done. I didn't think we were going to put up a lot of runs last night because we haven't hit you, Darvish, all year. It was a bad matchup. And the matchup tonight is bad. We haven't hit against the pitcher going tonight for the Padres either. And we've struggled against left-handed pitching. So DeGrom's going to have to get the job done. And hopefully the Mets could find a way to manufacture some runs. From a positive standpoint, the Mets looked like they were able to get the base running game going. We were able to steal, I think, 3 or 4 bases. So hopefully we could manufacture 3 or 4 runs and Jake could do his job and move on. If we lose, for me as a Mets fan, it's not as doom and gloom as it's been in the past. Because, Authentic, I know you're not big into baseball, but in baseball, it's about your owner more so than anything else, because there's no salary cap. And we have an owner that is willing to spend whatever it takes to put a winner on the field. And in the past, we have not been that way. We've been handcuffed as an organization with the Wilpon. So the way I look at it is, if the Mets get swept, I still have a lot of faith and a lot of hope for the future of this team, where in the past, with the year in which the Mets have had with 101 wins, I'd be super depressed because I'd say to myself, I don't know the next time we're going to get this opportunity. So I think the Mets will be back next year. I think they'll be back the year after that because they're going to spend more money than anybody. So as upset as I'm going to be tonight if they get swept, I still have a lot of faith going forward with this baseball team.
Yeah, hopefully y'all get the dub, man.
We need it. Ronald, man, thank you very much, man. Vanilla Vic might be our best receiver. He might be, Ronald. Maybe he could throw to himself tomorrow. He might be our best receiver right now. Andrew Thomas might be second.
Yeah, can't forget about that touchdown. And, man, Kadarius Toney and Galladay still ain't got no touchdown yet. It's It's been tough, man, getting the ball to our wide receivers and getting them in the end zone. I was asking people on Twitter the other day about that, and Sterling Shepard right now, the only touchdown we got from a wide receiver all year. So we got to fix that, man. I mean, I'll take these dubs all day, but I do want to see a little bit of high-flying offense at the same time.
Yeah, and I think we will. I think we will open it up. It's just not yet. I think I'm hoping by week 7 or 8. I'm hoping. I can't predict. I don't know when these guys are going to get back healthy. But I hope we see Tony. I hope we see Wan'Dale Robinson. Maybe we make a midseason acquisition. A lot of people are talking about selling off. I've at least put the thought process out there, at least in my head. Don't be surprised if we make an addition to this offense. Wouldn't be shocked at the trade deadline if the right deal presented itself. Similar to what the Cowboys did with Amari Cooper. They brought him in, and that could change that offense for the second half of the year. You remember that. That Cowboys offense couldn't throw it to save their lives.
That revived Dak Prescott to a high level. I mean,
yeah,
I'm surprised they got rid of him. I thought they were going to find a way to get him his money.
Yeah. So you look at that and you say to yourself, well, we've got the Zeke. We've got Barkley. We're able to run the ball. Maybe we could get that guy via a trade like the Cowboys did if the right deal was
there. And a 6th-rounder? Man, I'll take Amari Cooper all day for a 6th-rounder.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Joe Shane adds a wide receiver at the deadline. Let me just throw that out there.
Yeah,
not just to evaluate Jones, but to have a long-term piece at that position because we know we need it.
Yeah.
Multiple guys at that position because we're going to need it in the offseason. Rodgers reportedly tweaked his ankle during practice. I did not hear that. That could be a troll. Maybe it's not. I think he's going to play. I'm going to go into the game thinking he's going to play.
Yeah.
We're not signing Odell. Not this year. I know that's been.
I don't think it makes sense either with the injury and whatnot. I don't think it makes sense.
It's not happening. I know a lot of people were talking about that. And listen, it'd be exciting times to have him back, especially with how banged up we are at that position. But it doesn't make sense for him, in my opinion, and it doesn't make sense for the Giants. So.
Yeah, I think it put a little too much pressure on him actually to try to come in here and be like a true number one. When right now I think for Odell, you gotta pair him with another wide receiver that can take a little bit of heat off him.
Yeah, especially coming off the injury. So so I don't see it. I don't see it being a fit. Maybe a fit next year, the year after that, but not this year. What's up, Rudy, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. Giants are off a great start. Winning England. Pitchfield is. Yeah, I mean, listen, we've won. I think our only 2 games we've played there. We've gone to the playoffs both times. What's going to be your thoughts, Authentic, if the Giants win tomorrow in terms of this year's football team? Like, are you going full on it's playoffs?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be acting a fool if we win tomorrow. Trust me, I'm going to be a problem on Twitter. If we win tomorrow, I'm going to be a problem. Like, I'm just letting people know right now.
We're going to make a deal right now. If the Giants win tomorrow, we're going to be like the tag team champions on Twitter. We are storming Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for it, man. I keep the receipts in the bag, man, all the time, man. I let people say what they want to say, be disrespectful, and then when we get them surprise wins, I'm gonna be right there back with them receipts, man. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think we match up really well. I picked the Giants to win the game.
Wow.
I don't think I'm being super optimistic. I'm just looking at it realistic. If we can find a way to run the ball on them the way we've been running the ball on teams and the way we've been running to success, I mean, I don't see the Packers getting in the way of that. So if everything goes well, I think the Giants are going to come away with a victory. That's my true gut feeling.
If we win this game, that's my mindset as well. I think it's playoffs. Now we may not make it. We don't know. We're young. We're very banged up with injuries, and there's certain games on this schedule that look a lot more challenging than we thought they would at the start of the year. The Jaguars, the Lions, but by the same token, the Colts don't look quite as hard, right? And the Vikings,
Same with the Vikes,
stick with. So we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the schedule plays out. But if we get off to a 4-1 start with wins on the schedule at Tennessee and a game in which we beat the Green Bay Packers on a neutral field, oh, you bet your ass. I'm coming out saying, yeah, I expect playoffs this year. Like, that's the barometer for me. I've been calm. I've been cool. I've been collected. I said 7 wins before the year started. I have not changed that. I'm still at 7 wins. But if they win tomorrow, I'm up in the expectations. So I'm with you. For me, it's playoff expectations if they win tomorrow.
Yeah, and then imagine if we just start getting healthy here and then this offense starts clicking. I mean, I think we'll have a great chance to make a nice run. You talked about teams like the Vikings and the Colts. I mean, those are beatable teams in my eyes now. And then we also got the Texans, the Seahawks. There's a couple games out there I feel like Washington, the Giants can win.
We could beat Washington.
We can beat Washington. We can beat Jacksonville too. It's all about just showing up and playing your best game, and that team football got to be a thing for us. The one thing that I'm just worried about is the defense, because they're our backbone right now outside of Saquon Barkley. So that defense has to go in every game and really handle business. And I think we got the guy running the ship to do it, man. I mean, I think, Wink Martindale, this couldn't have happened like sooner for me. Like, I'm so just hyped that we got a guy like that that's the opposite of what Patrick Graham was. And not to throw any shade towards Patrick Graham, but I used to just hate late games where we're like sitting in this soft zone waiting for things to happen in front of us. Whereas Wink Martindale is a go-get-it type of defensive coordinator, and I respect that and I honor that. I love that.
Yeah, listen, I think Patrick Graham was a really smart guy, especially his first year. He got the most out of a lot of the talent on that defense. But last year, yeah, especially last year, at the end of the halves, we gave up a touchdown the last 2 minutes of every half last year.
Yeah.
Like, that can't happen. That's a backbreaker going in, right? So, yeah, I like Wink's aggressive approach. And there's going to be times like last week where you're going to be pissed. 3rd and 20, how do you give up a first down? 3rd and 12 against Dallas, how do you let Zeke run for a first down? There's going to be times you're going to be pissed. But overall, yeah, I like a more aggressive mentality on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Chris, he says, when Nick Gates comes back fully healthy, do you play him at center or move him to guard? Does Feliciano go back to the guard if Gates is the center? No, well, listen, if they play Gates at center, I think Feliciano's done. I don't think he's playing guard. I think if anything, you get a Zudu more exposure there. I think that would be the plan personally. So I don't think if he replaced him at the center, yeah, I think you're done with Feliciano. I still think regardless, whatever their plan is with Nick Gates, and I don't know what it is, and I'm rooting for Nick Gates. I think Gates' best position is probably guard. And at worst, he's a very valuable backup where he could play both the guard, the tackle, and the center. He could play all three. So I think that's very valuable going into next year if Gates is his old self to at least be like the sixth guy that could step in if somebody goes down at any one of those positions. But no matter what, for me, the Giants have to draft a true center next year. They have to do it. I'm not saying it's got to be the first round. I don't want it to be the first round. But they got to draft a true center, whether that's the second round, the third round. Gates is playing out of position. We all know Feliciano is not a true answer there long term. And the center is a very important position on an offensive line. So I think they need to draft the center. I don't view Nick Gates as the long-term answer at the center spot.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about drafting a center. And Feliciano is playing a little bit of elevated ball the last couple of weeks, so I think he could hold it down for now. But long-term, I definitely agree with you on that. And Nick Gates, man, I was at the game he got hurt, in Washington. I believe that was week 2 or week 3. And he was our best offensive lineman at that point. That was before the emergence of Andrew Thomas and all that. And I thought Nick Gates was just a feisty offensive lineman. I mean, he was even in Aaron Donald's face, ready to fight, showed his grit, showed his toughness. I think he could be a good addition. And McAdoo seems to be the guy who's the depth piece behind everybody right now. So adding another depth piece out there that we could use, I don't think it'll hurt us at all. So hopefully Nick Gates, I just hope that the leg is 100%. We saw what happened with Alex Smith when a leg injury happened with him and whatnot, even though he had some infections and stuff like that and dealt with some complications with the surgeries and whatnot. Hopefully Nick Gates, when he comes back, he's, I know he won't be 100% on that leg, but at least he could be salvageable and serviceable on this offensive line.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at it. If he becomes a starter, great. And I'll be rooting for him to become a starter. But at a bare minimum, and we'll see if we bring him back, I think he could be a really valuable guy off the bench. And there's going to be injuries on the line, so that's important. Got the hiccups. Rel says, Dable is definitely plotting on wideouts right now. He has to, dude. We have nobody right now. And even with Tony coming back, and hopefully he comes back, hopefully, I'm begging. I'm begging. I'm trying my best not to poke fun at the guy. I understand it's a physical sport. I know he's been hurt a lot. I want him to be back. I know he makes this team better when he's on the field. But even if we have Tony on the field, and even if he's healthy for the whole year over the second half of the season, we still need another receiver, even with Wan'Dale Robinson, because Kenny Golladay ain't it. David Sills ain't it. Richie James is a nice little receiver, but he's not a number one.
Yeah, and if Wan'Dale does what Wan'Dale's supposed to do, you won't need a guy like Richie James. But I do like Richie James. I mean, right now he's leading us pretty much in all categories in receiving right now. I like what he can do, and I like what he brings to the special teams outside of the little fumble he had the other day. But outside of that, I like what Richie James can do. I think he's done a great job.
He's done a great job, and
it seems like he's not used to being on the field too much either. And I think that'll help him. Kenny Golladay, I think, is suffering from that tremendously as well. Although he's having a terrible season, I think that he's a guy that really gets the fuel from having volume, and he's not getting that volume. A target here, target there, he's dropping one. And I played receiver back in high school. I know what that's like. If you're only getting 3 targets and you drop one of them, you never really gain your confidence throughout the game. So at least with whatever's left with his tenure here, when he does get healthy, I know this injury is going to keep him sidelined for a little while. I think he's just got to go out there and just let it all go, man. Just play confident, try to find a way to get those targets. Him and Daniel Jones haven't had chemistry the whole time that Kenny Galladay has been here. Seems like Daniel Jones really doesn't have chemistry with any of these wide receivers outside of what happened in 2019 with Darius Slayton, which I'm hoping they can get back to that because Slayton is a down the field threat that he's not being utilized. A lot of people questioning the hands, rightfully so. But last week definitely got a step on the defender. The ball's a little bit short there, and he has to come back for it. He does drop it. You get the pass interference, but I want to see more of that. I think you can use Darius Slayton in this offense a little bit more, and hopefully that can open up things a little bit for Galladay when he gets back and gets healthy. And Tony, I think Tony lacks from just fluidity too. Like every time I've seen Daniel Jones and Kadarius Toney on the field, you never just see that like crispy route. I'll go back to Odell Beckham and Eli Manning. The way that they just ran the slant route, the ball right on them, timing perfect. We're not seeing that. Even out of the 189-yard game against Dallas, granted, a lot of that wasn't with Daniel Jones. Yeah, half the game was with Jones, and you're just not seeing that fluid style of route running and crispiness and timing. That's the word I could use probably the best, is the timing coming from Daniel Jones and these wide receivers in this offense.
Yeah, and he's playing in a different offense every year. And so are the receivers. So it's been a disaster, man, just everything. Janky Jimenez says, should we sign Barkley or trade him? Again, too early to say.
I'm going to say sign him. I'm going to say sign him
right now. Healthy. That's why I say it's too early to say.
Yeah.
He's got to stay healthy. But if
I think he's just got a whole new attitude, and he's running totally different than he ran last year.
I felt so bad for Saquon Barkley last year because I knew going into the year that he was not going to be mentally there. He was not going to be fully mentally recovered coming off that ACL tear, or at least I knew it was very possible. And he dealt with a lot of stuff, not just from fans, from the media. And you could see over the last 4 or 5 weeks with the way that he handled the media, I was like, this guy is depressed. And I felt it as a fan, and especially as a guy that talks about the team, because I'm freaking depressed talking about this team. And I feel so happy for him that he's back. And you could see all the love he has to play this sport, to play for the Giants, the love he has for Daniel Jones. That's one thing I always say, man, that I respect the hell out of Saquon Barkley for. He is, and it's not just Jones, his teammates in general, but he has always gone above and beyond to back up his teammates when they have gotten a lot of knocks from the fan base, from the media. I love Saquon Barkley, and if they can make this work, I want them to. But it comes down to he's got to stay healthy before I even talk. He's got to play a whole season.
He definitely has to stay healthy, and I think if he stays healthy, it's not even a question. Saquon.
The question is the contract at that point.
Exactly. Is how much you're going to pay him. And I think he wants to be in New York. I do think he does.
Yeah, for me, I've said it consistently. I said it before the year started. If he stays healthy, I'm going 4 years. I will give him 4 years with the ability to get out after 3. Because I recognize the running back position is a short-term position. There's a lot of injuries. I'm not going 6. I'm not doing that. But the thing is, I don't think any teams are going to be willing to go 6. I know Dallas went 6, but a lot of that was backloaded money, and they're not doing that.
Dallas went 6 with Zeke Elliott?
Yeah, but a lot of
that seems way too much for a running back.
Yeah, I'm going to look at his contract right now. I want to go over the Zeke contract, actually. I'll show it.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was, I think it was voidable years, like what they did with Dak. But let me just show this real quick. Let me get rid of this one. And then I'll show this was the Zeke contract. And the contract's horrible. And obviously he's broken down over the course of it, and Dallas is paying for it. And I think a lot of Giants fans look at that and they're scared of it. But yeah, in 2019, he had a cap hit of 6.3. So what they did was they backloaded the salary, and now the backload's kicking in, much like the Dak backload is going to kick in over the next 2 years after this year, because they needed after they were signing all these players. Now the Giants wouldn't have to do that. They would not have to backload the Saquon contract, especially if they don't sign Daniel Jones to like a huge deal. They're not going to have to do that, but Dallas did, because they saw they were going to have to pay Dak. They saw they were going to have to pay. They were paying Cooper at the time. You had CeeDee Lamb. You had Gallup. You had members of the offensive line that were already getting paid a lot. So they backloaded it. So I don't remember when he signed the extension. Was it? I guess it was the first year, 2019.
Yeah, it was the year that he got suspended when he was like out of the country. I want to say it was that year.
Here it is. 6 years, $90 million in the top left contract term. 6 years, $90 million. $15 million a year on average, but they backloaded it. So now it's 18.2, 16.7, 14.3, 17.1, 16.6. They could get out of it, get out of it in 2024. It's only a $6 million dead cap hit. But yeah, they backloaded that salary. If I'm the Giants, I'm willing to do 4. I'm willing to do 4 with the ability to get out after 3. I will do that.
But I'd like 3. 3 would be really nice. And
Four is really three, though. That's the way I look at it. Four is
right,
really
because you can jump out of the contract.
you can jump out of the
With Saquon too, I think what a lot of GMs and a lot of teams need to understand here is that when you commit to a contract like that, you're also committing to him being the guy within the offense. And I think that's where Dallas kind of went wrong. They signed Zeke to the contract, but then they also draft a guy like Tony Pollard now. And what ends up happening is Tony Pollard, you can't afford to just leave him off the field. If you look at Zeke's attempts the last couple of years, 4 or 5 years, his attempts have been going down every year. So, for me, it's like if you're going to pay the guy, make sure he's going to be the guy. Or give him a contract like somebody, like an Aaron Jones, and then you can bring in that A.J. Dillon and have that running back by committee type of vibe. If not, you got to find a way to bring somebody else in and not pay Saquon that top dollar. I'm not. For me, it's like I'm not so pressed to give him that number one running back money. It don't necessarily got to be that. But if they are, you got to commit to him being the guy for the next at least 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I've said it constantly. If the plan is to move on Jones, it bringing back Saquon even makes more sense because he could be that guy that the rookie quarterback, when you don't have a ton of weapons, could really, have some help with, like Jared Goff did with Gurley when he first came in, like Russell Wilson had with Marshawn Lynch when he first came in, like Eli had with Tiki Barber when he first came in. So,
man, I saw a stat about Tiki's fumbles in his first 5 years, and I was like, man, if that was happening in 2022, Tiki Barber wouldn't have had a career, which is crazy. They allowed him to fumble for like 4 or 5 years before correcting it.
Coughlin came in and he fixed it right away. Which is why I was upset when he took shots at Coughlin on the way out and I understand that Coughlin ran him into the ground, and I'm sure Tiki took resentment towards that because they run the ball a ton. But Coughlin was the reason why Tiki's career took off, or at least was a big reason why Tiki's career took off in the way in which it did, because he was a big-time fumbler before Coughlin got there. And I remember them talking about that in the offseason, how he was really working on that and fixing the way that Tiki run the football, and then it really corrected itself.
Yeah, I think he had 40 in the first. He didn't lose 40, but he had 40 fumbles in the first 5 years.
Yeah, he was a fumbler. And that's before he was getting a ton of touches.
Right.
Like he was splitting carries them with Ron Dane and everybody. Nice Giants fan says, who knew that Kelvin Benjamin would be our wide Probably would
use him right now, right?
Rel says most of DJ's deep throws are underthrown. I guess. I mean, a lot of the times he's under pressure and he doesn't.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
A
lot of time he doesn't have that clean pocket to really just let it go. But I mean, in the NFL, I know you don't want to look towards that excuse. You want to try, if you get the ball off and you're not, you ain't got guys hanging off your shoulder pads, you should be able to make some of these throws and compensate for, the pressure that's coming up front. But I hear you. We're not throwing it a ton.
Slayton, but it was good enough.
Yeah.
You got to make that catch.
I know from the receiver position, man, it's when you get that step like that and you got to work your way back to the ball a little bit. I thought it was pass interference on Darius Slayton. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought that.
I said that to Bad Dog when we were calling the game. I said I saw why they called it on the defense, but I said to him, I'm like, I hope they don't call that on Slayton because you saw Slayton with the full extension with the left hand. He pushed
exactly
off.
What I was going to say. Full extension on the arm, to me, that's on the offense almost every time. If you make contact into the chest like that, should be on the offense. But I guess the defenders kind of raking Slayton a little bit before the ball got there too. So I would have been cool, with no call there. But seeing it live like that and seeing it pan our way, I was extremely excited about that. I ain't gonna lie. And I felt, I didn't want to have another drop on Darius Slayton. I mean, the fans are already ragging on him enough.
Oh, if he didn't catch that, it would have been bad.
Yeah, it'd have been bad. Yeah.
It would have been bad. But hopefully he gets another opportunity. He has to get an opportunity this week. We don't have any other receivers. So hopefully when he does get his opportunity, he makes a big play this week. Because like you said, I do think he's our best big play threat right now in this offense at that position. Obviously, Barkley's the best big play threat, but at the wide receiver position, he's the best big play threat. He's the only guy that could really stretch the field. David Sills ain't stretching the field. Ricky James ain't stretching the field. Bellinger's not stretching the field. Slayton's the one guy that could get a step or two on a cornerback on a 50-yard goal route. So
yeah, they got to find a way to get him in his rhythm. It kind of threw me off when this coaching staff came in and really wasn't a fan of him. After seeing what he can do on his tape, he's one of the wide receivers in that department there that he has tape that shows he can get it done. I think Galladay has that, but just not in a blue uniform. Well, not in a Giants blue uniform. But Slayton has shown that he can make the big play. We saw it last year against Washington, even though he had to drop late in that game, which I think that's a tough ball to catch. I mean, it looks a lot easier than it really was. He had the early fade in the first half against Washington where ball was right on him, touchdown, and he's shown that he can win that fade route a lot. So for me, it's like just find a way to open it up, man. That's been Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, bread and butter from last year was running that 9 route, running that go route anytime they saw one-on-one coverage. And we just haven't seen that this year. And I'll tell you another thing about that too, is like when you see these defenders being off 8 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, man, I'd like to see Daniel Jones call an audible and just hot route, throw me a stop route right there to one of these wide receivers just to get the rhythm going, because the opportunities have been so far, few in between, that these wide receivers aren't able to get a rhythm outside of Richie James, who's been getting a ton of volume, and Sterling Shepard was getting some volume before he got hurt.
Yeah, and the one game where I thought they did a good job, specifically early on, was the Dallas game, actually, in terms of getting Jones open looks quickly in the passing game. They actually barely run the ball over the first 2 or 3 drives. They actually came out with a good game plan. I think that helped develop the run game, but they have not been able to extend the ball down the field. But I thought the play calling, even though the offensive line didn't hold up throughout the course of that game, and Jones was getting pressured left and right, but I actually thought the play calling early in that game from a passing standpoint was good. They were getting Jones a lot of quick looks, getting him into a rhythm, getting the receivers into a rhythm, but it wasn't sustainable because the offensive line couldn't hold up throughout the course of the game.
Yeah.
Diehard says, got to have Authentic join the stream tomorrow. Hey, man, it's on Bando. And I don't know what Authentic's plans are. He may be going to a bar, maybe watching.
So we got a show actually tomorrow at 11, and I was just gonna watch the game until then. So I'm definitely pop in, at least be in the chat, and
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he wants to pop on, or if I do a stream after the game, if he wants to pop on, he's always more than welcome. If he wants to, maybe we'll take him on it. Who knows? But yeah, definitely always love, and I want to come on his channel. Just my work schedule right now doesn't permit me to come on the Monday show, but I'm going to try to listen to it more so. Because right now I'm in training. So once I get more accustomed to the job and I could focus more on listening to podcasts.
They got you watching the videos over there?
Yeah. I'm watching videos. Watching videos, and it's 5 months of training. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm trying to learn it as best I can. But once I get more accustomed to the job, I work from home 4 days a week. So I'll tune into the show when I can, but definitely try to pop on there, when my schedule permits.
Yeah, maybe pre-record something too.
Yeah, man. Don J says, I think we should bring back DJ and get him. You're talking about the wide receiver. I can't pronounce the guy's name, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The guy from Ohio State, and you said it, out of Ohio State. Extend Saquon. We don't need him to break. We don't need to break the bank on him. I think we should bring back DJ, get him, extend Saquon.
Yeah.
So, but you're saying don't break the bank on who you talking? Oh, you're talking about on Saquon.
On Saquon, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't care what Saquon makes per year if it's within reason. I don't want to give him $20 million a year. But if I give him $15 million a year, I'm fine with that. It's the years. The years are the most important thing, because I think I'm going to get production from Saquon for at least the first 2 years of that deal.
Definitely.
The guy's in tremendous shape. It's just a matter of whether or not he's going to stay healthy throughout the course of it. But I don't think he's going to just completely fall off the cliff next year. It's the years, though. If I get out after 3, I'll give him top pay at the running back position, $15 million a year, whatever it is. I'm not going 6 years, though. I'm not doing that. That's crazy to me. I'm not doing that. If I get out after 3 years and you take it year by year after that, I'm fine with that. True Rappless says, 5 months. Wow, what's your profession? I'm a government job. It's a government job. So I'm not going to get into like the specifics of what exactly it is, but it's a government job. So yeah. But it's a lot. It's in depth, man. It's crazy. Diehard man, stand up. He's back with the member squad, man. I appreciate it, buddy. And the reason I won't get into specifics is because people hate government employees. So I don't job with pitchforks and knives and all that.
Yeah, right.
No, it's not the CIA, Fabian. It's not the CIA. It's not the FBI. It's not the IRS. People have brought that up. I'm not taking your taxes. Tony can't get on the field, and when he does, he lasts a couple of series. Mike says he's got to get on the field. The best ability is availability. And until such time he can get on the field and stay on the field, he's not going to be in the long-term interest of this football team. He's got to stay on the field, and hopefully he can, man. And I
hope it's not an attitude demeanor type thing with KT that's outside of the injuries, because even when he was healthy, we didn't see him out on the field that much. Same thing with the last regime. They really slow played him into the lineup. First 4 games, Giants fans are just begging for Kadarius Toney to be out there. And I just hope it's not a preparation, a lack of preparation type thing. I hope that's not the case with him. I hope he's maturing over there. And, the window is now for Kadarius Toney. As soon as he gets healthy, you got to get out here and start making some plays. 2 seasons of, lack of productivity because of injuries, people going to start to look at you a little sideways.
Yeah, I mean, listen, your first round pick, you got to get on the field. And I think what makes people as upset is they see the potential. It's kind of like with Jones, right? I think with Jones, people at least saw potential. And when they see him underperform, they get upset. And it's the same thing with Tony. They see potential. They saw the potential he had in the Cowboys game, the Saints game before he got hurt. He looked good as well. And he hasn't been able to stay on the field. I think that's a major reason why people have been as upset with him as they have been. Danny says, hey, Chris, question. Did you have faith in McAdoo after his first year taking us to the playoffs? I mean, yeah, it was impossible not to, Danny. I mean, how could you have not? I did in the back of my head realize that. Here's what I'll say, Danny, and it was God's honest truth. This is before I was on YouTube, so I can't prove this. I 100% in my heart felt if Coughlin was the coach of that team, they had a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl that year. I really, really mean that. I know that the team struggled the 2 or 3 years before that, and Coughlin was fired. Never thought that was the right thing to do. I think they should have just fired everybody. If they were going to fire Coughlin, they should have fired Reese. They should have just completely cleaned out. They didn't do that, and then they went out there and they signed the 3 best defensive free agents they could find. And that was Janoris Jenkins, that was Snacks Harrison, and that was Olivier Vernon. And they went out and did that. And McAdoo played a really soft schedule, and the defense carried that team in 2016. And in the back of my head, I always said to myself, if Coughlin remained on as the coach, they're winning at least the 11 games that they won that year against that soft schedule with that improved defense. And there's no chance in hell they're going on a boat trip before the playoff game. And I'm not saying that they lost that playoff game because of the boat trip. I know it was bad optics, but I think they would have been more mentally prepared. I think they would have went into that game more prepared to potentially beat the Green Bay Packers. That's my honest opinion. I think they would have been a better football team had Tom Coughlin been the head coach. I was never completely sold on Ben McAdoo, but how could you have not been at least somewhat optimistic? He went to the playoffs his first year when they won 11-5, but I, at least in the back of my head, still question whether or not he was the long-term answer.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And then the 2017 injuries really, really derailed that New York Giants team. I thought bringing in Brandon Marshall was going to be a good upgrade. And it's crazy. I think Brandon Marshall has never been to the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that's the case with him. And I thought that 2017 team was going to make it. But then you got that, I think it was week 5 game where everybody in the wide receiver corps got knocked out. Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham, Dwayne Harris, I believe, was the punt returner wide receiver at that time. He got hurt in that game. And Shepard got hurt in that game, but he ended up coming back. So once that happened, it was over. And I think that's when they really should have, looked at the Eli Manning whole tenure and started to really analyze it. You know, they could have either let him walk off into retirement, or instead of trying to build around him and do a last-ditch effort, I feel you kind of did him a disservice those last couple of years not building that offensive line.
Oh, yeah, dude. All you got to do is look at what the Saints did for Breeze and what the Giants didn't do for Eli. Had we done what the Saints did, Eli would have still been a productive quarterback for the Giants. I have no doubts in my mind. Everybody just looks at – it's why you can't look at wins as a quarterback stat. Look at what the Saints provided Drew Brees with. They had the best offensive line in football his last 3 years there. And the 2 previous years, he was throwing for a lot of yards, but they weren't winning football games. They reestablished their identity. They got Alvin Kamara. They drafted first-round lineman after first-round lineman after first-round lineman, and they allowed Brees to be a productive quarterback late into his career. The Giants didn't do that. They failed Eli. They did. Eli was no longer the answer after that year. I agree with you in that sense. You weren't going to get rid of him after 2016. You went to the playoffs. You won 11-5. They had probably the best offense in football in 2015, or one of the best offenses in football. But after 2017, that was the year to move off of him. They didn't do it. They tried to continue to build the team around him when they drafted Saquon Barkley, and things didn't work out. We can't live in the past. We have to hope that this new regime does a damn good job, either helping Daniel Jones along the way, making him develop into a better quarterback, or inevitably, potentially replacing Daniel Jones and developing a good team around him to support him, to give him the best opportunity to succeed. And you look around the league, you look at a lot of these top offenses. I hammer it home all the time, but it's the truth. What do they have? The Lions might have the best offensive line in football. Jared Goff looks like he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. If you just look at statistics.
Yeah. Eagles, same thing. I mean, the Eagles line is playing. I looked at a video on Thinking Football the other day about the Eagles offensive line and some of the schemes they're running. And, man, it really made me feel like I don't know football. I'm looking at some of these schemes up front, and I'm like, I've never seen offensive line schemes like this. And they're just stout up there, man. They make everything easier for the quarterback, make everything easier for the running backs. And in return, Jalen Hurts can actually kind of throw the ball now because he's got time. And if you don't got time to throw the ball, you better have somebody up there that's crafting up some really creative plays, trying to find ways to make it happen. I think the Joe Burrow thing, kind of gives people a little bit of leadway to say, you don't have to build the offensive line. But, I mean, look how they're struggling this year.
Though. That's not sustainable.
It's never sustainable like that.
It's not sustainable. And you look at the Eagles. The Eagles are putting points up left and right. Look at their offensive line. Look at their offense.
And dare I say the Bengals are a bit of a fluke last year. I mean,
The
I'm not
Bengals
saying
were
they
this
wouldn't
close
have
to
been
not
a
making the
playoff team.
playoffs. They were this
Right.
close to making the playoffs.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
struggled in the playoffs. Had 2 games where they could have lost the games. I mean, collapses by the other team definitely helped them out. And
Yeah.
I thought the wrong teams were in the Super Bowl last year. I think it should have been the Bills or it should have been the Chiefs representing the AFC.
I agree with that. 100%. I agree with that. And listen, you go back to that Chiefs game when they played the Cincinnati. The Cincinnati's defense won that game. It wasn't Joe Burrow.
Right.
They held Pat Mahomes to no points in the second half. That has nothing to do with Joe Burrow. So, but offensive line. And that's why the Bengals went out there and they spent like crazy on the line this year. They realized that that's still a problem with that team. They realized they have to improve that. It's why the Chiefs went crazy the year before on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it starts. Obviously, having a great quarterback is going to, take away from some of the holes on your roster if you can carry a football team. But long term, to be a sustainable, successful football team, you have to establish the offensive line. And I am proud and happy that Joe Shane looks like he's doing that. We're not there yet. We need to continue to do it to put whoever the quarterback's going to be long term in the best situation possible.
Yeah, no question.
Dan says government job. So you were a spy? No, man.
He's a hitman.
Far from that, man. Far from that, man.
He says, so you're a spy.
Yeah, it's pitch and catch with her. Here's what I'll say about Hurts. And Hurts, I'm not trying to take anything away from Hurts. Hurts is having a great year. Eagles are having a great year. They're putting up a lot of points. But the one thing that if I was an Eagles fan, that I would applaud the Eagles for doing, they've not gotten away from their identity.
Yeah.
The Eagles still are the third most frequent team in terms of running the football, even after all the weapons they've added to that team with A.J. Brown. They run the ball 54% of the time between Jalen Hurts, between the running backs. The Giants are fifth on that list. The Giants are mimicking what the Eagles do. The difference is the Giants don't have the weapons on the outside. They don't have A.J. Brown. They don't have Devontae Smith. But that Eagles team is still staying committed to that run. But when they do throw, because of how successful they are running the football, they have guys that can make huge plays. And when they do throw, they have the offensive line that gives their quarterback enough time to be able to make those throws.
I love what they do with the RPO over there, too. They let teams stack that box, and then they run the RPO, and you get those one-on-one matchups with A.J. Brown on the outside. I think that Darius Slayton could play the kind of role that Quez Watkins plays over there. It's big plays. That's really it. You're just on the field for the big plays, looking for the one-on-one matchup. But I think we don't have that guy that's like an A.J. Brown who can win those one-on-one matchups when you run in those skinny posts and when you run in those slants. But last couple of weeks, I've been saying this. If we're going to take a page out of the Philadelphia Eagles book, it's definitely got to be the RPO. The way that they fake that handoff, have Jalen Hurts just stay in the pocket. It's just a one-read throw, and it's a one-read throw that no one's going to complain about.
Yeah, and we got to get those guys back. But as the running game continues to establish itself, I think plays like that we're gonna have opportunities in the passing game once we get guys back on the field.
Yeah.
Sonny says, I had faith in McAdoo until he came back with the slick back hair and sunglasses. Yeah. I think he believed in his own hype after the playoff. It almost seemed like after his first year, he got a little bit full of himself. And he was trying to change his identity to fit more with like the New York culture, right? With the slick back hair.
Yeah.
It seemed like he got a little bit full of himself and whatever. It failed. I don't even want to talk about McAdoo. I hate that year. That is my least favorite year in the history of New York Giants football.
And last year. Yeah. 2017 was really my worst until last year. And then, Joe Judge came in.
2017 is the worst.
2017 was tough.
Bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It was definitely bad. But I do think Ben McAdoo, of those three, I saw someone say this in the chat earlier, too. I agree with them. Of Pat Shurmur, which I also think, he kind of had his wings clipped a little early, too. Yeah. For me, it would be McAdoo, Shurmur, and then Joe Judge. McAdoo and Shurmur were, kind of close in the way that they were coaching and didn't really get the opportunity, which made me think Joe Judge was going to get the opportunity. But then I think Joe Judge kind of lost the job in the last 6 weeks of the season, in his last couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Judge never had a great opportunity. Here's what I'll say. Out of those three coaches, McAdoo had the best team provided to him.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had injuries, like you said, in 2017. But he definitely had the best team provided to him. He still had a good – he inherited an offense, and I'm going to give him credit. He was the offensive coordinator. But he inherited an offense, at least in 2015, that was among the best in football. And they had great pieces on the defense after they went out there and signed a lot of the players. So he definitely inherited the best team of the three coaches. But Judge, I think, showed you specifically, like you said, over the last 6 or 7 games last year, that he wasn't cut out to be a head coach. Not yet, at least, and not in a New York market. And as a player, as a coach, whatever, you're going to deal with a lot of scrutiny. You're going to deal with a lot of hecklers. You're going to deal with a lot of trolls. And you saw it in that press conference with about 3 or 4 weeks to go. He let it get to him. He did.
Yeah,
He
he
let
did.
us as fans get under his skin, and he folded.
And with no response happening too during a press conference like that, I felt like he just couldn't stop it. I've been subject to that sometimes with conversation, right? Like you're trying to get something back from the other side, but in a press conference, there's nothing to get back. So it's like Joe Judge was just letting out as much as he could possibly let out in one press conference. I think it lost him the job. And I also think they fired Jason Garrett a little bit too early. Like you should have maybe looked at that a little bit more with like a little bit of just foresight to know, like, if you fire your offensive coordinator a little bit later, they probably give you a little bit more time. If he'd have fired him like week 12, week 13, week 14, maybe, it would have been like, okay, 3 more weeks of dealing with this terrible offense or whatever. Instead, you end up running these back-to-back quarterback sneaks, and then you get to see Freddie Kitchens, which now shows you that you've had 2 coordinators. I know they were within the same front office, but you've had 2 coordinators fail under you as the head coach, which you should have looked at that as like a correcting point. I think they should have just waited a little bit longer, and maybe Joe Judge would have been the coach the next year. But I think as fans, we're fortunate that happened, and now we got this coaching staff.
Yeah, I think you could, and some fans don't agree with this. It is what it is. We all have our own opinions. I think you could acknowledge that Judge was not provided the best opportunity, that he was kind of set up to fail as a head coach, but it was still the right decision to fire him.
Yeah.
And it would be a similar opinion I'd have if this year they decided to move off of Daniel Jones at the end of the year. And I don't know if they're gonna or not. But at the end of the year, if they decide to, I would have the same exact outlook. I would say Jones was not set up to succeed here. He was put in a really tough situation, much like a lot of quarterbacks that fail. And, he went through all these different offensive coordinators, yada, yada, yada. Didn't have the wide receivers to help provide him with, when you look at the Eagles, what they have, and a lot of Miami with what they have with Tua. Never presented that. I could acknowledge all of that and still recognize it was the right decision to move on if they decide to do that. So that's the conclusion I came to with Judge. Yeah, it wasn't fair, but life in the NFL is not always fair. Matter of fact, life in the NFL is usually not
never fair, right?
Oh, it is what it is. And Yusuf, man, I saw the comment. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And you may be talking about Authentic as well. If anybody has not checked out Authentic, go over there, check them out. My links are going to drop the link in the comments. Does a great job.
Appreciate
great
it,
job. Has a professional looking show. And they have a lot of fun over on their channel. Ricardo says, guys, I think we need 2 wide. I think he meant to say 2 wideouts. We can't depend on any of these guys we have now. What 2 receivers are out there via trade or free agency? I mean, it's all speculation via trade, free agency. I haven't even looked.
Free agency is thin. I know
I've heard it's thin. I'll look at it right now. I'll pull up NFL.
I know Will Fuller is out there. T.Y. Hilton retired. He could be out there. Who else is out there?
I'll pull it up right here. I got it.
As of now, T.O.
Yeah.
T.O. wants to play football.
As of now, these are the free agents. And in terms of trades, I think you look around the league on teams that are not good, that have good wide receivers. And people naturally say DK Metcalf. They say
it's a name that literally was just coming to my mind right now. Like, if I could have an ideal wide receiver, it'd be DK Metcalf right now.
Yeah, they say him. They say the dude from the Bears that I know you like.
Darnell Mooney. Yeah, who struggled this year.
Who's the other popular receiver? A lot of people have said. Man, okay, it escaped me off the top of my head. But in terms of free agent receivers next year, I mean, this is the list. I mean, let me go by age because I'm more concerned with young people. I'm not, like Shepard was near the top, right? So nobody so far that I love. Paris Campbell, I like coming out. He's not a number 1, obviously, but I don't know how he's done with the Colts. I don't think he's done much, but I liked him coming out of Ohio State. He's still young. Yeah. Darius Slayton's obviously a free agent. Juju Smith, he's still only 26 years old. Not a number 1, but maybe could be a 2.
The age, I like the age there. 26. He's younger than I thought he was.
DJ Shark is still a good wide receiver.
He's doing okay with Detroit right now.
Yeah, he's a solid receiver. Not a 1, but again, solid receiver. 26. Yeah. St. Brown. Not much.
Pettis, we already tried that.
Hard, but he's not doing much over there with Green Bay.
What do you think about Hunter Renfrow via trade? Maybe now that they got Devontae Adams over there.
He's decent. Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's good. Yeah. He's a slot guy. He's not really like a 1 for me, but he's a good receiver. Yeah. I mean, again, it depends on where the Raiders stand and whether or not they feel like they're selling this year. if they get to that point. But yeah, that's another. Listen, they need somebody. Most important thing, they need a warm-blooded receiver right now. They need somebody that's alive. That's the biggest thing. We have no talent at that position. But Ricardo, what I'm going to say is, don't expect them. At least in my opinion, I could be wrong. I don't think Shane's going to go out there and spend on the top wide receiver in free agency like we did with Kenny Golladay. I don't think they're going to.
I don't think so.
I think they're going to try to draft one for sure, relatively high in the draft, whether it be the first round, second round. They're going to hope that Wan'Dale Robinson further develops, and they will explore the trade market. I do. You look at Stephon Diggs. The Bills traded for him, right? A lot of the entire Hill this year, the Dolphins traded for him. So I think they'll explore the trade market. If the right deal is there and they feel like he could be like a game-changing player at that position and really help evolve their offense, like the Eagles did with Brown as well, I think they'll explore that. But I don't think they're going to – it doesn't look like there's going to be a free agent wide receiver that's, worth spending, crazy amounts of money on.
Yeah.
Don J says, Jason Garrett ran an offense that looked like it came from a 2004 playbook. He should have been gone in week 5. Are you kidding me, bro? Yeah, listen, man, the problem with Garrett, and this is a knock on Garrett. For Garrett's offense to be successful, you need to be able to block. But that's like basic for any offense. So the fact that he couldn't evolve the offense at all without being able to block tells you all you need to know about him as an offensive coordinator. He couldn't get.
And I don't want my statement before to get miscomprehended. What I'm saying is, for the benefit of Joe Judge to keep his job, firing Jason Garrett that early in the season gave too much time left for us to judge Joe Judge. He was a horrible coach. I'm not saying like Jason Garrett shouldn't have been fired. Oh, hell no, I'm not saying that. I was one of the people that was saying, man, get rid of all these fools by week 6. But if you're going to fire your offensive coordinator and then keep Joe Judge for a couple more games, to me, it just all didn't make sense. Like, if I'm Joe Judge, I'm pushing to get Jason Garrett fired later in the season to spare my job. It's kind of like what Pat Shermer was trying to do with Eli Manning. You paid him $20-something million to come in, and then by week 2, he's like, we're not winning games. I'm going to try and save my job. We're bringing in the kid. I don't necessarily think it was the best thing for the Giants at the time, but for Pat Shermer, I think it was the best move. And same thing here with Jason Garrett. I think that if you're Joe Judge and you're pushing to get him fired, he wasn't your guy all along. I think you could have just waited a little bit longer. Instead, you had this major meltdown. Y'all fired Jason Garrett, and now it looks like you can't figure it out. The offense regressed when we fired Jason Garrett. I know Daniel Jones was out as well.
Jones got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, and I think that, like, this is another thing I always like to bring up, because everybody just talks about Jones, and he's the quarterback. I get it. But look at Mike Glennon stats before and after he was a New York Giant and put into this specific situation.
Yeah.
He went from being a decent backup. He was a decent backup. He went from being that to a guy that should not be playing NFL football. Yeah. All you got to do is look at we saw it on the field, but look at his stats. Look at his numbers. 2013, 2,608 yards, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 10 touchdowns, 83. Barely played. I'm not even going to count that. 833 yards, 77 QB rating. Barely played. 1,072 yards the year before he became a Giant with a 62% completion percentage on the Jaguars.
Yeah, that's wild.
QB rating. He gets to the Giants with Jason Garrett's system, with our offensive line, with our wide receivers, without Saquon Barkley, with all our weapons banged up. He had a 49 QB rating and 10 interceptions with 790 yards. So for anybody that thinks like this situation is ideal or even good enough to be successful, you're crazy. You're crazy.
And I think goes a lot to what I was saying earlier about having more faith in this coaching staff when people are injured. With Joe Judge and Jason Garrett, when we had players out of the lineup, we were shot. There was no way we were going to go out there and win games. And to me, it was the most pathetic you've ever seen a backup quarterback come in. I mean, you look at the Jets last season or 2 seasons ago, they had guys like Josh Johnson come in and throw 3 touchdowns in a game, played fairly decent. I mean, even this year, they got Joe Flacco out there doing some things. They had Mike White come in and do some things. To remove Daniel Jones from our offense should not have made the offense take that drastic of a hit. And one thing it did is I think it did overvalue Daniel Jones a little bit, because fans were like, if that's what it's going to look like when we don't have Daniel Jones in the lineup, I don't ever want to see that again. But it also speaks towards the coaching staff and how incompetent they were and the culture that was built around that team. I mean, when people got knocked out, the depth pieces were awful and unprepared and not ready to go in there and win games.
And the support was awful. The offensive scheme, the lack of weaponry, the injuries. It was just a complete mess. Everything.
Yeah, Joe Judge played games like he was trying not to lose them.
Yeah, it was just a mess. And Mike Glennon has always been trash, but not that trashy.
Yeah.
So not
I mean,
that
you
trashy.
showed it right there. I mean, it was like a 1-to-2 ratio, touchdown to interception. So I mean, he hasn't had that in his career. And
Not
I'm
that trashy. And
Yeah,
he's been
Mike
in
Glennon
trashy
ain't nobody,
situations.
but it definitely looked like it was the worst football I've seen. And honestly, going back to that comment you said about 2017, I still think that was the worst I've ever seen the New York Giants was those last couple of weeks of 2021. It's the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. And Sonny says, I think Judge wanted out a few weeks before he got fired. Those two quarterback sneaks inside their own 5-yard line was proof of that. He bailed out. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I think Judge just got to a point where he was stubborn and he was set in his ways. And he said, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down my way. And
Yeah.
I guess his way was that he said, and at that point, he lost. I mean, I knew in the back of my head, I was starting to lean that we need to fire Judge because I didn't want it to affect the general manager that we were going to hire. That was my main line of reasoning.
Oh
Before
yeah,
that,
because we did know that Gettleman was going to be gone. Yeah.
if Gettleman was going to be gone, I looked at it and I said, all right, so now you're going to force a head coach on a new GM that has no experience before he got here, outside of being a special teams coordinator in the NFL. He's hasn't won a lot of football games, so I don't want to limit who I could potentially hire as a general manager and fit him around this head coach. So that was kind of where I was leaning, that we're probably going to have to move on from Judge, even though at that point I'm like, it's probably not the fairest thing to do. But after he did that, I'm like, this is easy. You're cut and
Yeah.
cut. After he did the QB sneak and the press conference and everything else, especially in that situation, at that point you're like 2-13, like whatever we were. What's
Yeah.
the point in doing a QB sneak 3rd and 9? Like, I understand that you don't have faith in your 3rd string quarterback, and Jake Fromm is horrible. But if he throws
Right.
a pick six, he throws a pick six. Who cares?
Yeah, it wouldn't even matter at that point. And I think with him, we noticed that, the pressure, he really, succumbed to that pressure. And pressure either busts pipes or makes diamonds. And in this case with Joe Judge, it busted the pipes. And we got to see the real person that he was underneath all that jargon he was saying at press conferences, and you really saw it unravel.
Listen, the one thing that I like about Dable and the one thing that I like about Wink, and just this coaching staff in general, and we don't know how much confidence they have in these players because a lot of these players are not their players. But while they're Giants, the one thing that they do, they instill confidence in these players. They don't, with Judge, he did not do that.
Right.
And you saw it week 1, 4th down. Daniel, not 4th down, rather. The 2-point conversion. Daniel, Saquon, you're going to decide if we win this game right now. I have faith in you guys to get the job done.
Yeah.
You've seen Dable do it on fourth and short. We've gone for it. Daniel, I got faith you could pick up these 2 yards on this critical play. Judge did not do that. Wink on the other side, 3rd and 12. I'm not going to just sit back. I got faith you guys could get pressure on the quarterback. I have faith that you guys can make a play for this defense and get the ball for the offense. So that's the biggest difference to me with these coaching staffs. One instills faith in their players. The other says we have limitations. We got, and I think it's a balancing act. I think you need to balance. I think a good head coach realizes some of the limitations he has, but at the same time, instills confidence into his players.
Yeah, and you guys like Julian Love and Dexter Lawrence, you're really seeing it in those players, just instilling that confidence in them, and they look like 2 totally different players. Julian Love was a guy who was looked at as like pretty much just a depth piece, somebody who's going to come off the bench and do things, and now he's looking like a leader of this defense.
Yeah, for sure. And Sonny says, I think Judge. Oh, I just read that, right? Yeah, I just read that.
Yeah.
Thompson says Judge never wanted Garrett or Call. He didn't, and that
Right.
was unfair to him. That was unfair to him. That's why he got screwed, especially with the Garrett. Gettleman construction of the team was way off. Yeah, to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the Garrett thing is. I don't know if that was more owner influence because we know that Garrett had a good reputation as far as with Mara. So that may have been owner influence. I don't know. Mara may have looked at Garrett and said to himself, well, if I'm going to bring in an inexperienced head coach, I at least want a guy that has experience, a guy that I trust, a guy that I like to be part of his coaching staff. But it was clearly apparent as things started to come out that he wanted nothing to do with Jason Garrett to be a part of his head coach. And hopefully Mara, if he was the guy that drove that, and I'm going to assume that he at least was part of the reason, hopefully he has learned that when you hire a head coach, you're allowing him to make the decisions on who he wants to be a member of his coaching staff. The owner should have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, they didn't operate like a tandem, and that's what I like about Brian Dable and Joe Shane is a GM-coach relationship. They come into the press conferences together. Joe Shane almost looks like an uncle to Brian Dable when they're in the press conferences, and I like that. They can both speak on the personnel, high caliber too, to the exact same extent, which I enjoy that. And I think that, like, if we have Brian Dable, we're going to have Joe Shane. They make like a perfect tandem to be able to put us in the right position to win games.
Yeah, for sure. And Fabian, thank you so much, man. He says, I'm out. Tana. Yeah, by the way, I saw you putting links in the chat throughout the stream. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for being a great mod. I'm out, Tana and Authentic in chat. Pray for the Mets and go Giants. Yeah, I'll be live for the Mets tonight. I think the game starts at 7:30. I'll probably go live at like 6:45, 7. It's a playoff game, and my diehard Mets subscribers are going to want to come in and talk about it. But yeah, man, have a great rest of your night, Fabian. If you don't swing by that stream, and I'll see you tomorrow on Bad Dogs at 9:00. My God.
Early one.
I'm going to have like 4 coffees during the stream, but
Facts.
looking forward to it, man. And Fabian, thanks for being here, buddy. Thursday night football. What's your take on Thursday night football, by the way? I'm going to tell you what, Authentic. I think they got to get rid of it. I'm sick of Thursday night football. Yeah, I mean, every year it's the same thing for me. And it's not always you get 2 bad teams, but you get bad football because they only have 3 days to prepare. They only have 3 days rest. Prepared. And for me, like for a league that expresses all this talk about wanting to limit concussions and this and that. Well, if you want to truly limit concussions, if you truly care about players' health, get rid of Thursday night football. These guys are playing on 3 days rest after they played on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, that does make it tough. But as a fan, I love Thursday night football.
Well, it breaks up the week. It gives you another game.
It breaks up the week, yeah. And, even during like preseason when we're getting Friday games and some Saturday games, I'm one that's like, hey, you can spread out the games a little bit. But I do feel you. I mean, like, when you have a game Thursday and you just played Sunday, we saw it in the case with the Miami Dolphins and Tua. He takes the big hit, and then now they're trying to force him out there to play again. Goes out there, takes another big hit. Concussion looks crazy, and now the NFL is on full blast on prime time of like exactly what is wrong with the concussion protocol. So, I mean, maybe you move it to Friday or something like that. But I, especially as a content creator, I like having that little bit of a breakup. And it feels like by the time I'm doing a preview on Thursday, the week has flown by so much for me. So I do enjoy how it makes the week kind of progress along.
They have to do something.
Ooh, that's my man Bluegrass. Shout out Anthony one time in the building, man.
That's a great suggestion, Bluegrass.
Yeah, that's smart.
Subscriber mine as well. Do it once the bye weeks start coming around, week 4, week 5, maybe then start to do it. And the teams that came off the bye have 2 of those teams playing Thursday.
Love that. That's a great concept, great idea. I remember for a while they were doing Saturday games like that late in the season or something.
Yeah, you can't do it during the season because of college.
Right.
But once college is done for those 2 or 3 weeks, they play the Saturday. We're playing on Saturday this year, actually, late in the year.
Oh, we do got one. Is it around Christmas? I think.
Yeah. But maybe do that. Maybe wait until like week 5 once the buys start kicking in. Then do Thursday night football.
Love it.
That's a good idea. But if you're going to talk about players' health and players getting banged up and trying to limit injuries, well, Thursday night football is not helping it. So that's always been my outlook on it. And usually you're going to get sloppy play because these guys don't have full time to prepare for the game. Harrison, man, thank you very much, man. He says, keep it up, Tana. I will be at the game tomorrow, if I may. Just a shout out to the Tana Army. If someone wants to grab a pint before or after we win. Yeah, man. And enjoy the game. Wow, man, that's awesome, man. Enjoy the game. That's gonna be dope. I said it on Twitter this week. Authentic. We know Giants Pride is going to be at that stadium tomorrow because there are a ton of great Giants fans. They're in my streams all the time. They're on Twitter all the time over in the UK. So I know you guys are going to make noise tomorrow, and we're going to need it. So bring the noise.
Sold out too. I can't wait. I heard that the fans over there get real loud for kicks and stuff like that too, and they're like the crowd is louder at different points in the game because they don't really view it from the same perspective as us. So I'm looking forward to getting up early, man. It's gonna be first day of school vibes for me, man. I'm gonna lay out the Eli Manning jersey on my bed, and get ready for tomorrow night, get some good night's rest, man, and all that.
I got a feeling, man, there's gonna be more Giant fans there than Packer fans.
Yeah.
Because the Packers, obviously, from within the states, have a lot of historical significance, obviously, right? They're one of the cornerstone franchises in the history of the NFL. But if you're over in the UK, like, who are you going to root for? A team from New York or a team from, like, I don't know. I just feel like the Giants carry more weight over in the UK. Maybe I'll be wrong, but we'll see tomorrow. I think there's going to be a lot of Giants.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. I just feel like New York, at least that's what I've experienced since I've been on YouTube. A lot of people say, because I ask them, you're from the UK, you're from Spain, wherever. Why did you pick the Giants? New York.
Yeah.
Why did you pick the Giants? Odell. A lot of them fell in love with Odell. And maybe some of them fell in love with Aaron Rodgers with the Packers. But I think there's going to be more Giant fans there than Packer fans. I'm confident.
So, too. And the New York market, man, for people out of the country and whatnot, New York is just that staple, you fly in and all that. So it does carry weight.
And Harrison says, I've seen more Giants jerseys there than Packers, to be honest. There you go, man.
Good stuff.
Bring the noise, man. We're going to need it tomorrow, man. Baseball update: Cleveland versus Tampa scores 14th inning. That's
Wow.
crazy. That's game 2. I think who won? I can't remember, Dan. I don't remember one game won yesterday. I think it was Cleveland. I could be wrong on that. But that's an elimination game for one of them. Foxy says, Tana, how do you think the game goes tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, listen, if I got to put a prediction on it, I think it's going to be, I'm going to pick the Packers. I don't want to, but I do think it'll be competitive. I don't think we're going to get blown out. I think the Giants keep it close, and I think we're going to have a chance in the fourth quarter to win this football game. But I'm going to pick the Packers. I think I'm going to go. I just don't think we're going to be able to do enough offensively. Like this team, even though their offense isn't great, it's at all. It's not your typical Packers offense. I don't think we're going to be able to keep them to under 20. I think they'll be able to put up enough points to beat us. Something like 21-17, 23-17, 23-20. Like I think it's going to be like a 3 to 6 point game. And the Giants will have a shot to win it. But I'm going to pick the Packers. I hate doing it.
That's exactly where I'm at with it. 3-score, 3-point game here. I think the Giants going to rely on that run heavy. And I think this is going to be one of those games where you're looking at Aaron Rodgers like, why can't he get in the end zone? What's going on? I think the Packers will settle for 3 a lot. I'm taking the Giants, man, 23-20 in this one.
So you think wow, so you got to score our most points in the year this week. I think that would be our most points, right?
I think so.
Let me take a quick look at the Giants schedule. Hold on.
Get over 20.
Let me see. Giants this year have scored. What did we score? 22 last week, maybe? I'm trying to we scored
20 last week, I think. 20-12.
Yeah, we scored 21 week 1, 19 week 2, 16 week 3, and 20. So 22, 23 would be the most we've scored.
Yeah, so I got 23-20.
I could see it. I could see us scoring in the low 20s. And if we do, I think we got a very good chance to win this game because I don't think Green Bay is going to put up a ton of points. Unless we hand it to them. Like if we have stupid turnovers and stuff like that. But I don't think they're going to light us up. Let's put it that way. So if we score,
we can get a good turnover and maybe get some points from the defense or from the special teams in this one. A pick 6 will be extremely nice. I do think the offense can put up 2 touchdowns and maybe a couple field goals.
Let me throw out a bold prediction. We know that Dable is aggressive. Like he's not as conservative. At one point in this game, if the opportunity presents itself and it makes sense, I could see an onside kick, a surprise onside kick.
Nice. That'd be nice.
Or like a surprise fake punt or something. Because I think he's going to look at this game as a game where he has to try to create an extra possession some way, shape, or form. And maybe he tries to create a spark. If there was a game, I could see it being this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I'm hoping to see an elevated game from the edge rushers. I know we're dealing with a couple injuries, but I just want to see Kayvon go out there, get some pressure on the quarterback in a real way. We haven't seen that, I feel like, from the edge rushers all year, even though they've been dealing with big injuries. And, they're going to have to step up in the middle. Hopefully we can get Leonard Williams out there. I think that'll definitely help us, man, because we're going to need all the help. Yeah, getting the pressure on Aaron Rodgers is going to be super important in this game. Leonard
Williams playing in this game is probably just as important as Daniel Jones playing. Like in terms of the significance of winning the football game, like because if we have Leo and he's the real Leo with Dex, the way he's been playing, they could wreck this game by themselves on the interior part of that defensive line. So that will go a long way towards potentially winning this football game if we get the real Leonard Williams out there tomorrow with Dex, the way he's been playing. So I'm praying we get Leonard Williams tomorrow.
Yeah, and lastly, I just hope that Daniel Jones is not like 75%. I really hope that ankle's good to go. Because we're gonna need to be able to run the boots and some of that read option, and he's gonna have to be able to do things with his legs for us to have a chance in that game.
Yeah, for sure. He's our second best weapon right now.
Yeah.
Saquon's our best runner, and Jones is our second best playmaker right now with his legs. Danny says, "What up? So amped for this game. Hopefully we pull out a win tomorrow. It's early. It's gonna be early. One for me, 6:30 a.m. Wow. Let's go Giants and Mets, man. I'll be live for the Mets in a bit, but yeah, man. Here's what I'm hoping, Authentic. I'm hoping I stream the Mets game tonight. That'll be over by about 10:30, 11. Go to bed, get up about 7:30, get ready for football, and then I stream game 3 of the Mets. I get a win today, Mets. Give me an opportunity to stream the winner go home game, game 3 of the wild card. We'll see how we do today with Jake DeGrom on the mound. But regardless, really amped up to call that Giants game tomorrow. I'm going to have a Red Bull. I'm going to have 8 coffees. I'm going to bring the energy like I do every single week. It's just going to be earlier.
Yeah, facts. So you looking for 3 wins.
Mets win tonight. Giants win tomorrow. Mets win tomorrow.
I like it, man. I'm crossing my fingers for you, man. I hope it goes down.
And tomorrow, because the game's so early, I think I'm going to yell at least at the beginning of the stream, "Wake up, New York Giants fans."
I like that. That's a good flip.
Yeah, because we're gonna for some people on the West Coast, it's 6 in the morning, so everybody's got to wake up tomorrow. You got to bring the noise.
I'd be ending my evening at about that point. I'd have to stay up and pull an all-nighter if I was on the West Coast, man.
Yeah. Octave says, considering how Thursday went for the Broncos, I'm glad we hired the right guy at coach. Makes a huge difference. That
God
sucks over in
man. What's his name? Nathaniel Hackett. He's struggling over there.
He's
and
horrible.
They hired like a senior guy over there too to just do like clock management, stay in the booth and just help them out with timeouts and things like that. And they're still struggling. In that game, all they had to do was really just run a couple running plays, milk that clock down a little bit, kick the field goal. No one scored a touchdown in the whole entire game, and a 6-point lead wasn't enough for you to be able to go into that fourth quarter with just maybe under a minute left. I mean, I take the field goal all day there, and then just down the stretch, man, Russell Wilson struggling, missing the pick play that they look like they designed for that to go to KJ Hamler, and he's looking over there at Sutton. That was a disaster, man.
Yeah. Oh. And you go back to the 4th down decision week 1, like that guy is that. I really do think they hired him because they thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers because he had ties to Rodgers at Green Bay, and people said Rodgers liked him, and obviously they ended up getting Russ, so that was a good a good prize, not quite Aaron Rodgers, but that's the reason why I think they hired him, because they thought it was going to make Aaron Rodgers comfortable. But that guy's not cut out to be a head coach. He's not.
Yeah, I'm feeling bad for him already. I mean, it's like, man, you're botching some easy situations here that you could make those decisions playing Madden on Xbox, and he's struggling. But
and the fact that it's on primetime for everybody to see is not helping him.
Yeah, that's not helping at all.
So he may be one of the rare coaches, and we saw it last year. We saw Houston fired their coach after 1 year, I think.
And I believe he was an interim guy.
Maybe
coach that got fired with the Texans.
I thought he was from the start of the year.
Man. He was decent, man. The players rallied around him,
That's
but he was making a lot of those mid-game problems, like decisions. He was making some bad decisions.
But I mean, that's why I was so surprised they fired him, because how could you have expected to win a lot of games last year if you were the Texans, right?
Right.
But yeah, they fired him. I think he was from the start of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was from the start of the year, and he took over from he was a coach that was already on the staff, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe.
But those kind of coaches, man, you can have a short lease. We saw that with what was the dude in with the Chargers there, Herbert's first year. Black head coach too.
Yeah.
He was. I want to say Leslie Frazier, but it's not him. It's
Anthony
Lynn. Anthony Lynn.
Anthony Lynn. Yep.
That's who it was. His leash was very short too, and it was because of that. Like those in-game decisions that seem very obvious, when you start to botch those, they're going to be looking at you crazy.
That was the Texans guy, Culley.
David Culley. Yep. Yeah.
That was the Texans guy. But yeah, Lynn. I mean, I'm assuming the main reason they moved on from Lynn is because they wanted an offensive guy for Herbert. But
yeah.
But yeah, that I didn't necessarily think that was the best decision. I actually liked Lynn.
Yeah, he's assistant head coach somewhere now.
Yeah. Danny, man, thank you very much, man. Russell Wilson just had a procedure on his throwing shoulder, so maybe that's affected his play. Yeah, I think it's probably partially that. It's probably partially never playing with these receivers before, being in a new offense.
Yeah.
There's factors and there's growing pains. So he's going to struggle there. I'm just glad that we didn't trade for him. It has nothing to do, a lot of people I think a lot of people agree with me when I said it on Twitter, but some people didn't when I said, thank God we didn't trade for Russell Wilson. It has nothing to do with Russell Wilson. Like, I still think Russell Wilson is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He's probably not quite what he was 4 years ago, but I still think he's a good quarterback. I still think he could win. But it never made sense for us. Like, we didn't have the team to support paying a quarterback $50 million a year and giving up 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks and paying that guy $50 million a year.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. And I was one of the guys who was pulling to go get Russell, but if it comes at that cost, that's not going to work out. And this team just, they weren't really in line. I mean, you go back to the beginning of the season, we have superseded our expectations. This team has been winning more games than I think anybody thought, unless you were just incredibly optimistic. But I will say this with Russell, it's I think people are overreacting a little bit. Like, you got to give it a little time to get clicking, and it doesn't look as horrible as I think people are making it out to look. Coming into this game, he had 4 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year. He's thrown some yards. It's just the chemistry is not there, and the offense is not clicking the way they want. And now they got a running back that's going to be out for the year, so they're going to have to try to rely on Melvin Gordon. And Gordon, I mean, it seems like every time he runs the ball, he's holding on to it for dear life, like he's gonna fumble it. So I mean, they got problems over there. I will say that, but nothing that I don't think could be handled easily within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Russell still keep them competitive. I don't know if they're going to be happy they made the move, because when you make a move like that, it's you got to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
When you give away as much as they did. So we'll see how that evolves, not just this year, but over the next 3 or 4 years with Wilson. But it was not the right move for us, not for what
Yeah.
the cost was going to be and everything else. So I'm glad we steered clear of it. And hopefully, if it's not Jones, it's via the draft. That's what I'm hoping the long-term answer is for the Giants.
Yeah.
I'm never, unless you have a team that you feel is like right there, like you're
Which
like,
the Broncos kind of looked like it, but
I
you're
know,
right about us. We didn't look like that team.
like they weren't the Broncos before they got Peyton, because that team
Yeah.
brought Tim Tebow to the playoffs. So they got
Oh,
Peyton, and
yeah.
that team looked at it like, yeah, we could win a Super Bowl, and they were absolutely right about that, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if that this team was that far along, but they were much further along than we were.
Yeah.
So unless we get to that point, like the Eagles, for example, and I know you like Hurts, and Hurts may very well be the long-term answer, but if
Yeah.
they get to a point where they're like, we need an elite quarterback, and they don't know if Hurts is that guy to win us a Super Bowl, they have a team where everything's in place, and they
Yeah.
could be like, let's bring in, I don't know, say like Watson was available at the time. Let's bring in Watson. He could get this team where we root to win a Super Bowl.
He'd be a perfect candidate for it too, because guys like Jalen Hurts, and I'm not saying Hurts is in that category with a Lamar Jackson or anything like that just yet, but those kind of guys where the offense is very like reliant upon the way that they play, the running style, but also be able to make those throws, run a little read option, some RPOs and thing like that. You need to bring in the right quarterback, because with Philly and the way that Sirianni has been running this offense so far, you need a guy that has legs. I don't think you can go in and bring in like a pure pocket passer and that offense will look the same. You got to bring somebody in that kind of has similar skill set, to be able to enhance what Jalen Hurts does. And I think they can give him time. I mean, Jalen Hurts right now, 24
Hurts
starts,
Listen, Hurts is winning. He's putting up numbers.
Yeah.
No one could debate he has a great support system, but he's winning and he's putting up numbers. So he's going to continue to get opportunities. We'll see if they extend him, but
Yeah.
he's definitely going to be the starter next year. Definitely going to be the starter next year. And
Yeah.
we'll see how the Eagles continue.
And he was a question mark coming into this year. I mean, some people, I remember when they tanked against Washington that last game in 2020, and Nate Sudfeld came in. I was thinking, like, it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles went out here and drafted a quarterback in the first round in 2021, and they didn't. And I think Jalen Hurts has shown them, like, where that team could possibly be. The offensive line was pretty intact. They didn't have much weaponry at the wide receiver position, but you draft Devonta Smith. Now you bring in A.J. Brown. It seems like any running back can feast over there. I mean, they got Scott. They had Howard last year. They got Gainwell. They got Miles Sanders. It seems like all of them can run. I think 4 running backs over there have a touchdown this year. So, I think Jalen Hurts is kind of showing the organization like, hey, you're going to need a guy like me to be able to get this job done. And the one place where I really, really, really like Jalen Hurts, man, is the composure, not only within the game, but outside the game. When you see him at press conferences, they ask this guy stupid questions. He's giving you the proper answer for it. He knows how to handle himself, and he looks like a good leader.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever questioned his leadership. We'll see. We'll see how he evolves as the Eagles quarterback, but he's certainly proven he can win when given a good team. The question is it going to be a situation like Garoppolo, where the Niners were winning and they said we still need an upgrade? Or is it going to be a guy they feel like they could build for the next 15 years with? That's ultimately going to be the question.
And they always say that, man, with the quarterback position, they're always looking to upgrade. You saw it with the Rams, man. They had Jared Goff over there in the Super Bowl just a couple years, and they're like, man, we got to go get that real guy.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, there are certain quarterbacks that can do great things when you give them an ideal circumstance. Jared Goff was one of them. He was an MVP in consideration that year for a couple of years with the Rams, probably top 5 in the MVP race.
Now, let me ask you this, and I don't want to jump the gun. Matthew Stafford's playing not really great football right now. If that starts to kind of tumble in the wrong direction, do you go out there and try to get another quarterback?
If you're the Rams?
Yeah.
If you're the Rams, I could see the Rams completely blowing that team up soon.
Yeah.
Because the Rams, what they did, and tip your cap to what they were able to do, and they draft well. They just don't have early picks, but they draft very well in the later portions of the draft. They get a lot out of their players, and they have a tremendous coach in McVay. But if you're the Rams, there's going to come a point in time you're going to have to blow that thing up, because you have not built that team exclusively through the draft. You've built it a lot through free agency. so on and so forth. It's very hard to have sustained success that way. And if Stafford at the end of this year, if the Rams win 9 games, you have to start to consider the long-term outlook of that football team. And you have to start to consider, and I don't think they have a first-round pick next year. So you can't draft a quarterback next year.
They haven't had a first-round pick since 2016, I believe.
Eventually, they're going to have to blow that thing up, though, and it's going to come sooner than later. But my guess would be Stafford probably gets one more year after this year, depending on how the Rams finish and how he does. But it's not going to be much longer. I don't think he's going to be there that much longer. Christopher Ewing asked, "We win it tomorrow." I think it's going to be close. At kickoff, I'm going to pick us to win because my heart's going to be in. But right now, taking my fan hat off, trying to be as unbiased and as honest as I possibly could be, I think we keep it close, but I think the Packers win.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Authentic is picking us.
It could go either way, but yeah, I see an avenue to a victory. I see it, and all they got to do is execute it.
I see an avenue to a victory. I agree with that. Let me ask you this, Authentic, and obviously it's hindsight now because we saw them beat the Titans. I think going into this game, I feel about equal to the way I felt about going into the Titans game in terms of the Giants' chances to win the game.
100%. And now it's just a pass. It's about stopping the pass for us, Like the running game is something too, but where I'm scared of Aaron Rodgers is in the passing attack. If they can get that clicking and we start to look like Swiss cheese in that secondary, it's going to be a problem. And I don't know how they'll be able to stop that, but if that secondary comes out here and they come to play to win this game and Wink got them in the right places and we can just, contain the run. We don't got to stop it. We can contain the run. And I also think on the flip side, Saquon Barkley doesn't have to have, that monster 160, 70 yards on the ground. He just needs to be consistent, move the chains, make it so the second down is not 2nd and 12 and it's more like 2nd and 6. We've seen it with Saquon Barkley earlier on in this year against like the Carolina Panthers where you just stay committed to the run. And as long as it's getting positive yards, I think the Giants going to have a shot in this game.
I think we're going to have a shot in the game. I mean, I can't predict it. If we have stupid penalties and if we muff a punt or something like that, that changes things. Yeah. But going into the game, if we play pretty fundamentally sound, we don't beat ourselves with penalties, this is not a Packers team that I view as just going to blow us out. I don't believe that. You just saw Bailey Zappi take them to overtime with a Patriots team that does not look very good this year. Packers are not hitting on all cylinders. This is a team I think we could, if we come out with the right game plan and if we establish the run, which I see no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. When you look at what the Bears were able to do and the Patriots were able to do against them with limited quarterback play, we can keep this game close and competitive. And I think we will have an opportunity. I see an avenue if we get a couple of breaks where we could potentially win this football game. So I'm
looking at how teams kind of tried to attack stopping Aaron Jones in the rushing attack. And I mean, the Vikings held them to 49 yards. The Vikings aren't particularly known for having a great defense. Tampa Bay, they've been great against the run, and they held Jones to 36 yards. So it's been about every other game so far for Jones. He started off the year with 49, had 132 in week 2 against the Bears, then 36 against Tampa, and then 110 against New England. So I'm hoping that we get that exact kind of, hit and miss kind of rushing attack from them, and we can stop Aaron Jones and shut down A.J. Dillon, especially when they get close to the red zone. Don't allow him to get some easy touchdowns. I think the Giants got a big chance in this game.
Red zone defense got to continue to do what it's been doing. We have the second best red zone defense in football thus far this year. So they're going to move it 20-20. It's going to come inside the 20 where we're going to have to hold in the 3 to give ourselves the opportunity to win this game.
Totally.
Why are they favored by 8? They're a better team.
And they sleeping on the Giants too. I mean, we are 3-1, but they still looking at us as like a bad 3-1 team. They're looking at Aaron Rodgers. They're giving them that. Vegas is normally not too far off either.
You still got to give Packers respect. I mean, there's a team that had the number 1 seed in the NFC last year. They're a team that went to the NFC title game and nearly went to the Super Bowl the year before that. I understand that Aaron Rodgers is not clicking quite yet with all these lack of weapons, I should say. But they're still the Packers. They're still a team that consistently is a top 1 or 2 seed in the NFC for the last 4 years or so. So they're better than us going in. How could you say otherwise? So, yeah, they deserve to be favored by about a touchdown. Let's see if the Giants can prove people wrong.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who is the best red zone defense currently? I'll pull up the red zone stat. Actually, I think I pulled it up earlier. Let me here it is. Denver right now is number 1, the Giants number 2. Denver 27.2% of the time they score in the red zone. Giants 2 at 35.7. New Orleans 3, Carolina 4. Dallas 5, Niners 6, Rams 7. You got the Bengals tied with them, and then you got Houston at 9. So those are the top red zone defenses right now.
Yeah, a lot has to do with the sample size,
And the
Denver,
schedule.
it's interesting with
Yeah.
Denver because they're number 1 here in red zone defense. They got to be at the bottom of the league in red zone offense. I remember entering week 4, Russell Wilson he was 0% in the red zone entering week 4.
I could pull it up right now. Red zone stats, offensive stats. Tennessee is number 1, which is funny because they played us and we've been really good in the red zone.
Yeah.
Maybe that speaks to that we have a legitimate red zone offense. They have a 90% scoring percentage inside the 20.
That's Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Hmm.
90.
Is Philly up there in the top 10? Oh, Philly might be up there too.
Let's share this real quick. And I think we held them inside the 20, if I'm not mistaken, when we played them. So they must score every other time they're in there. Since they played us, Tennessee. Tennessee is they're 100% in their last 3 games. Tennessee inside the 20. So
yeah, and they're a field goal kick away from being 3-1. So they kind of started off a little bit slow, but Henry just had his first 100-yard game just last week, so they're kind of getting their getting on all cylinders over there.
Detroit 2 at 88%. Obviously, their offense has been really good. Defense horrible. Saints 3.
Offense is good.
Chiefs.
Same thing with Baltimore. Bad defense, good offense.
Yep, Baltimore. Pittsburgh's surprisingly been good in the red zone. They don't really have a great offensive line in there.
Yeah, I don't see the Broncos in the top 20 yet. I'm gonna say they're at 30. Let me see.
Eagles are 9. You asked about
Eagles
them.
are 9. That's what's up.
Buffalo 10. You got the Jets. Green Bay's good, 60%.
We got to get better. That 23 ain't good.
Yeah, that's an upgrade though.
Yeah,
that's 50s. An upgrade. I'm going to show you right now what we were last year. It was not good.
About 34% probably.
2021, we were Bills led the league at 66%. Obviously, the 90% for Tennessee is not sustainable.
Yeah.
The Giants last year were dead last, 44% for the year, dead last.
Yeah, that's terrible.
They ranked 32, and the year before that, they were 31.
31.
So right now, I think what would I say, 23?
Yeah.
So we're better. We're and that's without our wide receivers, and you got to think that Saquon Barkley's gonna his threat inside the 20 turns of running the football should only help.
Let me see that. I want to see that bottom of that list and see if the Broncos are last.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Number 32 is Denver.
Yeah, there they go.
21%.
Yeah, that's awful.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember Russ. I saw 0% entering week 4. I was like, man, that's crazy. Like that, and then they had their Thursday night performance wasn't good either.
Wow. So we're getting better in that area, but we got to continue to get better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
stay
man.
consistent.
Wow, that's really bad. It's amazing that they even have any wins with the way that they're operating inside the 20.
Yeah, it is.
Aaron Jones is the player that scares me the most. Yeah, I would just say their ground game in general I think is the bigger threat in this game, and what we have to do a better job containing. Having Leonard Williams back should help that. You think of the difference that Leonard Williams made, and he's at least partially responsible for it in terms of the run. Derrick Henry, we held in check, especially in the second half. We held him in check that game when he played. McCaffrey, we held in check in the first half while Leonard Williams played.
Yeah,
Second,
just the one big run.
50-yard run after Leonard Williams went down. And then the next week, Zeke just completely tore us. Well, they're running in general. Pollard and Zeke.
Both of them, yep.
Tore us to shreds. Pollard had a 50-yard run. So having Leonard back in the lineup, if he is back, is going to help the run defense.
Yeah, and I agree with Sonny here about Aaron Jones. He's definitely scary, and you got to keep your eyes on him coming out the backfield too. And we know with Tay Crowder at the linebacker position, hopefully we don't see that matchup too much with Tay Crowder having to be in coverage on Aaron Jones or any of our linebackers, even Jalen Smith, newly acquired as well. I'd rather see us, have a nickel or dime kind of cornerback out there trying to keep their eyes on Aaron Jones because he could shred us in the passing game too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think we're gonna have more DBs out there too, like we've had the last couple of weeks. But because I feel like the Packers, it's a lot of quick throws. It's getting the ball out of Rodgers' hands quick, and our linebackers are not good in coverage. So I think you're gonna see a lot of multiple DB looks like you've seen the last couple of weeks. Try to get as much speed on the field as you possibly can, and those two guys on the line have to do a good job stuff in the middle, and we'll see if we can do it.
Yeah.
But guys, we are gonna close it out. It's 5:09. I wanted to go to 5. Because I got to eat, and then I'm going to come on to call the Mets game, and hopefully the Mets win. If you guys are interested for the playoff baseball, I'll be doing that. It's only my second time I've called one of my teams in the playoffs. Hopefully this year I get to call Giants playoff game. That'd be incredible. But I called the Knicks when they made it a couple of years ago, and tonight we'll be calling the Mets. Hopefully they win. They send it to game 3. But thank you to everybody. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I didn't point it out as much as I should.
Yeah, you didn't plug the hoodie, man. Those are fire.
I'll be plugging it more. I didn't give you guys the website quite yet, but yeah, this is the merch. I asked you guys before the year started some samples, and a lot of you guys like this design. And I also got the matching hat with it says Entertainment Talking Sports on the side with the NY.
It's clean.
Then I got the New York, this is a basic trucker hat, and I got a couple of t-shirts as well. But those came, I'm just going to start sampling them every now and again. Not selling them yet, but yeah, just giving you guys a quick glimpse, I guess, of what they're going to look like. It says Entertainer on the side here. So
clean. Yeah, let me know when you drop the store link. I'll support for sure.
Yeah, but I appreciate it, man. But again, thank you to everybody for all the support, man, that you guys always show. I had a lot of fun today. I didn't have time to do a preview video, so I figured I would just go live and talk about it with you guys the day before the game, especially because I can't do the night before the game stream. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the college football if you're watching that. But Authentic, man, thanks so much for coming on, man. Always love chopping it up with you. Look forward to doing this more in the future, coming on your channel, whatever else it may be. But thanks for coming on. Check out Authentic in the Beard. And as you guys have been spamming it, and there it is. Dyer just spammed it again. Check them out. But yeah, close it out, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on the show again, man. It's always a blast. I always dig the vibes that your chat brings over here, man. It's good football talk over here. And if y'all want to check me out, the channel is Authentic, spelled like that, Authentic and the Beard. That's my partner who's a Washington Commanders fan. We both live here in D.C. I live on North Capitol in D.C., so it's a bit of a different perspective than most of you New York Giants fans are used to. And we're dropping content now about 5 days a week. We stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And I also do a show called The Giant Overreaction on Mondays. That's like a twist on like what's happening in the media and on social media. We kind of react and judge some tweets and some content from other media outlets as well. So yeah, if you digging the vibes that me and Tanner presented here, very similar on our channel. I'm a producer, as a day job, so the level of production is definitely high. I pride myself on that. The football talk is like, just a little bit of fun and a little bit secondary as well too. But again, Tanner, man, I definitely appreciate you, man. Last minute having me on the channel, man, and we got to get you on. Even if we got to pre-record something, we got to do something soon. Yeah, we'll do something soon for sure, man. For sure. But guys, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your dinner. Come on by for the Mets game if you guys are free. If you guys are going to watch the game, if not. I know y'all see the majority of you guys on Bad Dogs channel tomorrow as we get up bright and early for the England game. But let's get a win tomorrow, man. That's all I'm thinking about right now. I don't care how we do it. I don't care if we run for 10 yards and we turn it over 30 times. Just get a W. It could be as dirty as possible. There's no such thing as an ugly win to me. A win is a win is a win is a win. Let's just get one. But guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Let's go Giants.